Common Spirit Health Studios. This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour. House Republicans successfully passed President Trump's budget bill by a one-vote margin this morning. ABC's Rachel Scott reports.
The One Big Beautiful Bill Act extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts, lifts federal income tax on tips and overtime, sets aside nearly $50 billion to resume construction of the border wall. It also slashes federal spending by more than $1.5 trillion, but the cuts to Medicaid could leave more than 8 million Americans without health insurance over the next decade.
This bill will head to the Senate, where it will likely face more challenges. Speaker Mike Johnson urged the Senate to send the bill to President Trump for a signature.
To our friends in the Senate, I would just say the president is waiting with his pen. The American people are waiting for this relief. They are waiting for these life-changing results, and we are going to finish this job.
He says the American people are waiting. Local news, we're following the Division of Outdoor Recreation is giving $23.3 million in grants to fund 142 outdoor recreation projects across the state. It is the largest combined award in the program's history. CashValley.com says some of those projects include parking expansion, winter trail grooming, a bike park, and playground equipment. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 40 points right now. That's 0.1%. We're at 41,819. Coming up, we have a beautiful day in store. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This time of year, so many wonderful things are going on. First of all, there are graduations. There are many weddings. The list goes on. And you will be so pleased, and the person that maybe receives the gift will be so pleased if you include Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Maybe for a wedding luncheon, perhaps for a graduation celebration. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse at Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City. They will absolutely take care of you and your group. It's time to make your reservations and gift cards. By the way, in that graduation card that you're sending out, how about a gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse? Everything is always perfect. And don't forget, this is probably the most important thing of all, since I am a father. Father's Day! Don't overlook dear old Dad. He will love going to Ruth's Chris, that's a hint, Steakhouse, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Chatting today with Debbie about her experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Now, Debbie, you had a huge project. How did it go?
My experience was wonderful. I worked with Taylor, and if he was my son, I'd be very proud.
That's quite the endorsement. What were the details of your project?
I had 2 bathrooms done, a new kitchen, and a pretty large flooring project.
And did they get it done in the time frame you were expecting?
Well, it took 2 weeks because it was a big job.
Did the quality of work meet your expectations?
Yes, it was excellent.
Would you recommend 3-Day Kitchen and Bath to someone that was deliberating on redoing their kitchen or bathroom?
I would, and I have already.
Sounds like you'd give them a 5-star rating.
I did.
There you have it. Another 3-Day Kitchen and Bath satisfied customer. Request your in-home consultation today at 877-229-8829 or online at 3daykitchen.com.
It's about time at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Go from daydreamer to industry leader with Amazon Business. From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
It's Clean Car Month. Right now, get the Pro X1 Car Care Collection Wash Kit for just $19.99, exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account. Plus, continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen.
We have emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Heather Kelly?
There's a crash southbound I-15 right at the point of the mountain on the Utah County side of things. We've got 3 left lanes blocked, so traffic is pretty much at a standstill, backing up all the way into Bluffdale and down the hill toward Bangerter Highway. You also still have delays southbound I-15 through Lehigh from Triumph Boulevard down to Main Street, where a car fire is still being cleaned up. They've got a right lane and shoulder blocked in that area. Then you've got the big delays on US 89 northbound trying to get up to Weber State University. Those delays start around SR 193, that's 3000 north in Layton, all the way to the Harrison Boulevard turnoff. Fuel your summer adventures with Doug Smith Jeep, proudly serving American and Spanish Fork. Find deals on 2025 models during the Employee Pricing Plus sales event now through May 31st. No one knows Jeep like Doug. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny and warmer with highs in the mid-80s. Expect some winds late morning, early afternoon. Right now it's 60 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We had a major development overnight with that big, beautiful budget bill that we've been talking about. And we're going to go live to Washington, D.C. in just a moment to bring you up to speed on what's in that legislation and how much it increases the deficit if, of course, the Senate passes. But first, I've got guest host Holly Richardson with me today, my colleague from the Deseret News. Good morning, Holly. Hi. I'm so glad to have you in.
It's great to be here.
Okay, so you're going to be with me from 9 to noon today, but more importantly, you're going to be with our listeners starting June 9th, because if our listeners missed this announcement yesterday, Dr. Holly Richardson and our legal analyst, Greg Skordas, are going to take over the 9 to noon slot with the brand new Inside Sources.
Super exciting.
Starting on June 9th. Well, congratulations, and I bet you are excited.
I am, and I've been involved in Utah politics for a quarter of a century, which is a really long time. So super excited to talk about the people and places in Utah that are important.
Formerly a lawmaker on Utah's Capitol Hill.
I was, yeah.
Currently editor of Utah Policy, which gets distributed every single morning.
That's right.
And also often writes opinion pieces for the Deseret News.
That's right.
All right, let's get going.
All right.
Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
So Holly and I wanted to start this show by talking about what's inside that big, beautiful budget bill that President Trump had been pressuring the House to pass, and it passed. And I think what's most important here is to talk about the things in that bill, Holly, that'll affect our listeners. And I think what stood out to you the most is what the Congressional Budget Office recently said about how much it's going to add to the deficit.
$3.8 trillion, right? So this big, beautiful bill actually is going to increase the deficit, and it's going to try and defray some of those costs by cutting Medicaid and food stamps, and also maybe Medicare as well. So those are big concerns for a lot of people who are recipients of those types of programs.
And we're going to dive into that more in just a moment, and like how that'll affect people who are receiving, for example, SNAP benefits, which are food stamps here in the state of Utah. I want to get more into the details on that because there are some requirements for work that are going to impact families.
Right. And I think one of the things with this bill, right, they pulled another all-nighter. It passed early this morning. So one of the things is we don't know for sure everything that's in the bill, but we do know that these were part of the conversations, is that they're going to have to cut Medicaid to be able to get this deficit down a little bit more.
Yeah. Also, what I noticed is that it increases the standard income tax deduction. So it increases the standard deduction for joint filers to $32,000, and for singles, I think, which would be me, I think I should know this, would be right around $16,000, and also boost the child tax credit at least temporarily to $2,500. But let's get with Ashley Fields, a breaking news reporter with The Hill. She's standing by live in D.C., and I think, Holly, what she can do is help us walk through what this bill does and what it doesn't do. Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning. I hope you guys are well. Thank you for having me. As you guys mentioned, this bill passed in the early hours of the morning with House Speaker Mike Johnson referring to the bill as a generation and nation-shaping legislation. So as you guys mentioned, there's different things in there when it comes to changes to tax cuts and credits in addition to work requirements for Medicaid. And it'll also affect some things like the border, deportation policies, and national defense priorities.
Could you speak to how close that vote was? Because my understanding is it was very, very tight.
It was very, very tight. Only one vote off. So there were 215 for the bill, 214 against. All House Democrats voted against this bill. There was only one House Republican that voted alongside them. And so, it passed in a slim majority, but it definitely showed House Speaker Mike Johnson's ability to unify the party, who, as of yesterday, were unsure about whether or not this bill could actually get through.
Ashley Fields, breaking news reporter with The Hill in Washington, D.C. Holly, my co-host here, mentioned that the Congressional Budget Office just put out some new numbers, Ashley, saying that this is going to add to the deficit some $3.8 trillion, making up to some degree with the cuts to Medicaid and to food stamps. But is that essentially what it still stands today, those numbers? If this passes the Senate, it would indeed increase the deficit?
It would. It would increase the deficit by about $4 trillion. And so it would allow different spending to go into these other areas while cutting Medicaid and making reforms in other areas to hopefully stretch the country's ability to expand the deficit.
What is the process from here, Ashley? This bill has passed. Now what's going to happen?
Now it will head to the Senate, and the Senate Republicans have already shared that they intend to make some reforms to the bill, possibly looking at, again, changing the requirements that were included for Medicaid, also tweaking other areas when it comes to, energy or green tax requirements that were in the bill as well. And so with those tweaks, it could head back to the House. Members of the House who are hardliners have already said that they would, disagree with any changes to what they've input for Medicaid. House Speaker Mike Johnson has encouraged his colleagues in the upper chamber not to make too many additions or edits to the bill currently as it stands. As you already said, it's slimly passed. And so there's a lot of conversations that could be had. However, Republicans as a whole have set the goal of passing this bill before Memorial Day.
Ashley, just before we let you go, I want to make sure I'm clear. I know I read about the work requirements, which we're going to talk about in just a moment more in depth for food stamps. Do those work requirements, are they also going to impact Medicaid recipients from what you know?
From what we know, yes. It could also affect pregnant mothers, mothers who have, either had miscarriages or abortions, which is something that AOC got into with House members during one of the committees. And so there are different areas, of course, that would be impacted outside of what you mentioned.
All right. Ashley Fields, thanks so much for keeping your finger on the pulse of this legislation as it winds its way over to the Senate. Breaking news reporter with The Hill in Washington, D.C., live for us this morning, breaking down at least parts of what this budget bill will do. Not all of it. It is, I believe, 1,000 pages, Holly.
Right. So that's, again, one of the things where you pass it in the middle of the night and people it was a moving process, right? A moving target. And so we're not going to know for sure everything in the bill until people have a chance to digest it all.
One of our colleagues at the Deseret News, you know him well, Jay Evenson, he's the opinion editor there. He recently dropped an opinion piece, and I believe, Jay, that opinion piece was entitled something to the effect of America Needs Real Fiscal Reform. Did this bill hit it out of the park, or is it a swing and the miss in your opinion?
Definitely a swing and a miss. Good morning. It's nice to be here. I really one of the Republicans who voted against it is Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky. And I loved his quote on that. He said, "We're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg." And that's kind of how I feel. Now, Republicans who voted for it will tell you that this will stimulate more economic activity in the economy, and that will cover those deficits that you were talking about here earlier. I think a lot of Americans don't understand why Congress can't just stimulate growth first without also raising the deficit spending. We're on a trajectory here for real disaster. We don't know if it's coming next year or 10 years, 20 years, but the national debt right now is speeding towards $37 trillion. And it's over 100% of GDP. The interest alone on that debt is equal to, I think it might even be higher than our military budget. And we need to come to grips with this somehow. The sun is shining. We have low unemployment. We're not feeling the effects. We're really not even feeling the effects of the tariffs yet. But now is the time when we need to make these real reforms, because once things start going bad, I think it'll be really hard to change things.
So I have a question for you, Jay, and good to have you on. When you talk about these fiscal reforms, it seems to be that both parties will talk about it, and yet both parties they just keep spending. Like, where do you see the need, any real possibility for reform? Where are you seeing that they actually need to work?
See, that's a really good question. And what needs to happen is we need to fiscally reform Social Security. We know the trustees have told us that it will be unable to pay 100% of benefits within 10 years, probably about 2034. So we need to find a way to reform that program. The same with Medicare and military spending. There are a lot of people saying, look, we need to really audit what's going on there. That's just growing out of control. But these are difficult political objectives, because you start touching Social Security, you're going to have AARP, you're going to have a lot of high-powered lobbyists.
Right.
A lot of people who vote are going to be upset. It takes real political courage. It doesn't take as much political courage to cut Medicaid. And unfortunately, the poor people don't have as strong of a lobby as wealthier people do. And so it takes political courage and really the resolve to do something positive, even if it costs you your political position. And there aren't a lot of people in Washington who are willing to do that.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on with us. You're right. There's not a lot of political will to lose your elected office.
Jay Evenson, opinion editor of the Deseret News. Always good to have you on the show, Jay. I just want to use an analogy, Hall, that I think applies here. I think about this, like you're sitting down at the kitchen table with your significant other and you're going over the budget and you're spending $100,000 more a year than you're bringing in.
Right.
And you both agree to cut little things here and there out of the budget. And it sounds really good in the moment, but then somebody sneaks a drive-through coffee that they promised not to buy, or somebody sneaks a manicure and suddenly you're right back where you started again. Yeah. Except for in this case, the projections are, according to the Congressional Budget Office, this could add $4 trillion to the deficit and defrayed only slightly with cuts to Medicaid, I want to make clear, Medicaid and food stamps.
Right, and potentially Medicare, right? That is now on the table. So one of the things, too, I think we need to remember is trillion is such a big number. It's really hard for us to wrap our head around what that actually means, right? But if you are looking at the family who's saying, okay, we're overspending by $100,000 a year, actually the coffee is not going to make that much difference, right?
I know.
We're talking about some of these big things, like, are you
You got to sell the house.
Yeah, you got to sell the house and maybe decrease your cars, rate your car purchases, those types of things. So there's some really big things that take some real serious work here. And this idea that we're going to counter this increase in the deficit by cutting Medicaid, that has real impacts on real people who really are struggling, actually. So that's one of the things I think that a lot of people are really concerned about.
Here's what Representative Jamie Raskin said after the vote. He's a representative out of Maryland.
There's nothing beautiful or big about stripping 14 million Americans of their health care or removing food security from 11 million people, including 4 million kids. That's ugly. That's small.
Gina Cornea, Utahns Against Hunger, live on the line with us right now. Let's talk about the cuts to the food stamp program. Was your immediate reaction when you woke up this morning and you heard the news?
Oh, so deeply disappointed in Congress, and that they are willing to literally take food and medical care away from their constituents to pay for tax cuts that will largely, be helpful for those who are the richest in corporations. And, states are going to be left holding the bag.
So Gina, what kind of work requirements is the federal government talking about putting on for these SNAP benefits?
Well, first of all, there have always been work requirements for folks on SNAP. They're just expanding the age and the conditions under which people will be required to meet those. So they're moving it up from 59 to 64, and then removing the ability for states to exempt areas with high unemployment for able-bodied adults without dependents.
Oh, wow.
But if an able-bodied adult without dependents, if they live in a household where there are children under the age of 18, they are exempt. So, and we're honestly, SNAP has been dealing with and navigating work requirements for decades, and I am less concerned about that than the cost share requirement, requiring right now the federal government pays 100% of SNAP benefit.
Mm-hmm.
This bill shifts some of that cost to states, which sounds, there are a lot of, cost share programs that the federal government runs, but Utah would have to pay $20 million in order to have a SNAP program, and we could not get the legislature to commit $618,000 for summer EBT, which would have drawn down $32 million. So how are we where is Utah in its current budget going to find $19 million to help pay for SNAP benefits? And that, and every state obviously is going to be in that position.
Do you worry?
So they're leaving.
Do you worry that some families will be left without?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, folks. There are going to be a lot of people who could lose benefits. What happens if states can't fund their portion of the cost share?
Right.
They're going to have to cut benefits. They're going to have to cut eligibility. And, in Utah, let me give you some numbers here. 44% of individuals who receive food stamp in Utah are 17 or younger.
Wow.
20% of households have somebody with a disability.
Yeah.
So, it's miserable for everyone.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Gina. That's something certainly that we're going to want to watch within the state of Utah.
Like how the legislature, how the governor's office will react to this development. Gina Cornea with Utahns Against Hunger. Holly, final thought. I'll let you wrap this up. We're going to return to it in the 10 o'clock hour because we're also going to talk about the no tax on tips,
right?
And no tax on overtime, which again, they won't be collecting tax on that. So final thought, what we just learned about.
Look, I think one of the things, too, we need to remember is when people are pulling all-nighters, it actually becomes difficult to have rational conversations, right? And so I don't know why this is a thing that they do in D.C., but let's work all night and pass thing in the wee hours of the morning. But that's what they've done, and we're going to have to read the bill to find out what's on it.
Yeah. And my understanding is it's like
1,000 pages.
At least 1,000 pages. Straight ahead, some safety concerns uncovered at several newly built and remodeled public schools. So parents, if you've got a child in public school, some of these safety code violations looks like they involve firewalls, and there's other things we're going to talk about next with the legislative auditor who headed up the safety audit of schools, and he's calling the show next.
I want the news stories to really capture the environment that the story took place in.
Midday, all new from noon to 3.
I really want to take you to that spot where the community is really making an improvement in their neighborhood through a cleanup project, where the Cross Guard is helping those children cross the street.
Midday.
Those are the stories that really have an impact on you.
Midday with Maria Chaleos. Listen between noon and 3 on KSL News Radio.
Looking for a university that offers more than just a degree? Welcome to Utah Tech University in St. George, Utah, one of the fastest growing universities in the nation. With more than 300 academic programs, 300 days of sunshine, the most engaged student life in the state, and Utah's most affordable university tuition, Utah Tech is where opportunity meets value. Utah Tech's Polytechnic mission means you'll gain real-world skills through internships, mentorships, partnerships, and hands-on learning that gets you career-ready from day one. And the nation is taking notice. Utah Tech was recently named one of the country's most prestigious universities, driving student success and career growth, ranked 21st in the nation for value, and recognized as one of 10 prominent universities to watch. Come see why students are thriving at Utah Tech, where it's all about active learning, active life. Visit utah.tech.edu today and start your journey.
Summer is right around the corner.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss. Today is a new day.
And a big day for you.
Why?
Why?
Why? Because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
Soda Weight Loss has one goal, and that's to help you let go of the weight for good.
So I lost 25 pounds. I was never hungry. It was very, very easy. I couldn't believe how fast the weight came off.
Now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Hurry! Savings won't last long.
Let's go!
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, keep in mind, it's not just you.
My name is David. I was in trouble with the IRS. I owed about $140,000. It was a very stressful thing to know that you owed that much money to the IRS.
Don't face the IRS alone.
When I knew how much I owed, it was really, it's overwhelming. It's you worry about the whole, your whole world, what's going to happen.
With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
Everything was said and done, and Would the IRS offer me to pay $4,000?
You need someone to fight for you.
Do not hesitate. Do not think it twice. Go see Jordan Wilcox.
Visit endtaxworry.com. Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today. That's endtaxworry.com.
Anybody that needs help in this situation, please go see him.
endtaxworry.com.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour: the U.S. Supreme Court issued a major decision on a case involving a proposed publicly funded Catholic charter school in Oklahoma. The Supreme Court was split 4-4, which means a lower court ruling will remain in place. ABC's Devin Dwyer.
Justice Amy Coney Barrett, herself a Catholic, recused herself from this case from Oklahoma, in which the Catholic Archdiocese was put online the nation's first taxpayer-funded religious charter school, explicitly a Catholic school under the Oklahoma charter program. And the Supreme Court, because it was deadlocked today, Kira, effectively is letting lower court rulings stand. The lower courts in this case had found that creating taxpayer-funded charter schools would violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, and therefore this is a big blow to those efforts to expand religious freedom and religious education in this country.
Local stories we're following: with more than 28,000 veterans and military organizations where people can donate, it can be difficult to spot a scam. Timothy Johnston with the BBB has some advice to help you donate to a reputable organization.
If you are thinking about giving to a charitable organization, we encourage you to do your research, make sure you know the exact name. Don't feel pressured to donate. I mean, a charity will take your donation today just as much as they will in 2 months, giving you time to do your research.
He says before you give an organization your hard-earned money, you can check to see if they're legitimate at give.org. Your money at this moment. Right now, the Dow is down 33 points. We're at 41,826. Coming up, a beautiful summer day in store for us with highs in the 80s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the good news is all of our accidents have cleared. We had one northbound I-15 near 33rd South. That is pulled away, but you still have some residual delays through the Murray and Midvale area, so coming up from 7200 South to 53rd South. And then southbound I-15, we had a crash at the point of the mountain. That also cleared, but again, just a few residual slowdowns and brake lights backed up toward Bangerter Highway. And the earlier vehicle fire we had in Lehigh also cleared, but again, you're going to have some slowdowns between 2100 North and Main Street, Lehigh. This spring, experience the magic of nature and light at Zoo Luminate, where wild things glow. Hogle Zoo's new After Hours event. Get your Zoo Luminate tickets at hoglezoo.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny and warmer with highs in the mid-80s. Expect some winds in the late morning and early afternoon. Right now it's 63 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Dr. Holly Richardson, guest hosting today. Only guest host for a short time because eventually you will be the full-time host along with our legal analyst, Greg Skordas.
Coming right up.
Yep, 9 to noon right here on KSL News Radio. We made the big announcement yesterday that you and Greg will be taking over the 9 to noon show with all-new show. Called Inside Sources.
That's right, and we're really excited to get that underway, and I'm super happy to be here with you today as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk right now about a headline that I caught on KSLNewsRadio.com. I think this has landed on all the KSL platforms, but here's the headline that caught my attention, Hall. Audit finds several safety code violations with new and renovated K through 12 schools. So that's, elementary up through high schools.
Right.
Safety code violations.
And as a parent, that would make me concerned. It's like, wait, what?
Absolutely. In a moment, we're going to talk to Cade Minchie. He's the Legislative Auditor General. He had oversight over this audit. And there were just one of the main things that stood out to me was this apparently some safety code violations regarding firewalls.
Yeah, that's a huge concern, right? And so the report, it was presented yesterday on Interim Day on Capitol Hill, right? So they presented the report to lawmakers, but it basically said, overall things look pretty good. However, there's multiple schools that didn't build firewalls in compliance with the code, and that part is deeply concerning.
Now, you have actually served as a lawmaker
That's
on
right.
Utah's Capitol Hill. If you saw something like this come out during one of the interim committee hearings and you were sitting there reading this audit, I think it's a 70-page audit, what would your thought be?
Well, the same as it is as a parent, right? It's like that's deeply concerning. So the firewall, what they do and the purpose of them is to prevent fire from spreading so that you have the ability to cut it off, right? If you've got a fire in a school, it's not going to go through the entire school. So that's concerning. And I think one of the things that's interesting in the news report is that the state superintendent, who is currently Sid Dixon, she's stepping down, but she said this is a problem that we've had for a while. So it's something that at least the state school board is aware of, but then the question becomes, what are you going to do about it?
So let's get Cade Minchie, who's the Legislative Auditor General, on the line. Good morning, Cade.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us once again. I've
Glad to be here.
I've got Holly Richardson co-hosting with me today, and she served in the legislature at some point, so I'm sure she's read plenty of legislative audits in her time. So, the legislative auditor is directed by the legislature to go into schools and check for safety compliance, and you come out with a 70-page report. What was the biggest takeaway for you when all of the facts were in?
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. I think you covered it pretty well in your introduction. The concern was that some of the necessary controls that we have in place to ensure the highest level of safety for our public schools are not being met. And that's a concern for us. We're clear in the report that overall, we find that the minimum safety standards are being met, but there are some gaps there. And anytime there's a gap there, there's a concern that we might miss out on something that could be a huge issue. And it also doesn't give the confidence and trust that we want to give to the community.
Can I ask what schools were looked at in this audit?
We specifically aren't naming the schools in the report, but I can tell you that we went across the state and looked at schools, rural schools, urban schools, from the south to the north, elementary, junior high, and high schools.
Is your audit, does it look at what could be done, or why were these standards not met? Is it a financial thing? Is it they just didn't realize they should have looked at that? Like, what was the breakdown here?
Yeah, great question. It's something we talk a lot about in audits, and it has to do, just with our internal controls and our control framework. And sometimes that's kind of an audit word. So let me just explain that. What that means is that we have a consistent structure in place to ensure that we have consistency and accountability across the state. were prepared, and again, as I say, that we could promote confidence. So what we found here specifically is that control framework that starts at the Board of Education, ensuring that the permits are in place and that the compliance checks are there. It wasn't happening. And so when it doesn't happen at that level, what we saw going down to some of the LEAs is there also wasn't that same level of concern for some of these oversight rules. Now, like I said, we think that everyone's trying to get these schools up to standards, but there are gaps there. And when it starts at the top of the Board of Education not checking things, then it can trickle down to the bottom.
Okay, so Cade, and by the way, we're speaking to Cade Minchie, he's the Legislative Auditor General, and we're talking about this new report that dropped this week regarding some safety code violations that his office found while inspecting schools and the records for reconstruction and also new construction, remodeling of schools. How do we get these firewalls fixed? Because if I'm a parent listening to this and I'm seeing words like rapid fire spread when firewalls aren't up to standard, I would want to know how is this going to happen? How is this going to get fixed? Were there any recommendations that came out of your audit to get that figured out?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. We have several recommendations to the legislature for looking at how we should move forward. We want to make sure that all these safety protocols are absolutely where they need to be. And so we're asking the legislature to look at several different things. One of which is the question, it's a policy question for the legislature, which is, should the State Board of Education be the one looking over and certifying construction compliance? It's not really their specialty. They're educators.
That's a great question.
And
that's a really good question, Cade. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first question to the legislature is, should it be placed there? Should it be placed over? That was a big topic of conversation at the audit committee. Where Speaker Schultz specifically brought that up and said, hey, he thought that there was probably a better place for it. So I think you'll see some action moving on this with the legislature in the near future.
Yeah. All right. But in the meantime, though, is there any sort of sense that these school districts are going to jump on these compliance issues and get them fixed?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We had a high confidence when we talked with the officials in the school districts that this is something that's top of mind for them, and they're already putting plans and procedures in place to go back and check the compliance issues that we had and make sure that we can get these certified. So I do feel like in the immediate future there will be a lot of work being done to correct this problem.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Cade. We really appreciate your insight on this audit.
Yeah, thanks. Cade Minchie is the Legislative Auditor General. We had him live on the line because there's been quite a bit of coverage this week regarding this audit that found a lot, looks like several safety code violations in newly built and also renovated schools all the way from kindergarten into high school. The audit uncovered quite a few things, especially I'm really concerned, obviously, kind of camping on those firewalls. I'd like to know more, and we could probably learn this over the coming days and weeks, how this gets fixed. We don't know what schools specifically because the audit didn't address or didn't release the exact schools that they were looking at, but how this gets fixed and gets fixed quickly. Like we're going into the summer break now.
Right.
But also, I don't know what it entails to fix a firewall.
I don't know either, but I'm sure parents would like to know the answer to that
and how
question
does this
as well.
Happen? And how does this happen that there's a series of these safety code violations? I mean, these are our schools, these are our children. I thought,
think,
you build a house,
yeah.
You've got the inspector out there walking around looking at all of the, nooks and crannies of everything and looking at the roof and making sure everything is where it needs to be. So
right. One of the things I think that brought up was that there weren't really clear guidelines. There were minimum standards, but they're actually not the clarity that the districts needed.
Well, hopefully they get it and get it soon. Straight ahead, residents in the Granite School District taking the Granite School District to task when it announces the district is eyeing the possibility of closing schools on the east side of Salt Lake County. And there was a meeting about this.
I want to make sure that it's whatever school is closing, it's done objectively and it is done with all of the information.
The list of schools that are under consideration and a live conversation with the superintendent of the Granite School District next.
Pantheon Clinical Research is conducting a clinical study for children and teens. Is your child struggling with bipolar depression? If your child is between 10 and 17 years old and experiencing symptoms of depression associated with bipolar disorder, such as persistent sadness, loss of interest in activities, trouble sleeping, low energy, difficulty concentrating, or even suicidal thoughts, Pantheon Clinical Research may be able to help. We are ready to take your call anytime. Call our phone lines at Pantheon Clinical Research at 385-281-0550. That's 385-281-0550. We're conducting a no-cost clinical study for children and teens facing bipolar depression. Participants will receive study-related care, medical tests, and investigational treatment from a dedicated medical team, all at no cost and with no health insurance required. Call Pantheon Clinical Research today at 385-281-0550. That's 385-281-0550, or visit our website at pantheonclinical.com to learn more. Hope starts here.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Our other top local story today involving a school district, the Granite School District, and the potential, at least eyeing the potential, possibility of closing schools on the east side.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Holly Richardson co-hosting with me today. And Holly, it sounds like this drew a number of parents to a meeting last night. I think anytime you talk about either switching up school schedules, but even more so, the potential to close schools, it can be really upsetting for parents and the community. And you served on Utah's Capitol Hill, so you know all about budgets and shifting demographics.
Right.
And we have seen a number of schools face closure because there aren't the number of kids.
That's right. And even as a parent, I live down in Utah County, and we have shifting demographics as we have certain areas are built out, basically. And so then as that population ages out, those schools, those elementary schools especially, have fewer and fewer students. But we're building out a lot over on the west side of Utah County. So I can see that issue, right? But as a parent, you're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? The school in my neighborhood is the one that's going to close. That's not okay.
And there are parents who specifically buy a home to be in that area so their kids can go to that elementary school. In a moment, we're going to go over the list of schools that the district is eyeing and also speak to the superintendent of the Granite School District. But my understanding is there were a number of parents at this meeting last night.
I want to make sure that it's whatever school is closing, it's done objectively and it is done with all of the information.
So here's the list of schools that we're looking at. Actually, I don't. Do you have the list in front of you there, Hall, of schools that they're looking at potentially? Ben, are you there?
Am.
Hi. Can you give us a list? I guess I misplaced the list of schools. I had it with me this morning, but it's a number. I was like 10 schools.
Yeah, we have broken this off using the help of an independent demographer into different areas of socioeconomics and demographics, so that we're equating and studying different areas based on apples-to-apples comparisons. So it is pretty much the Upper East Bench of Mill Creek Holiday area, I'm going to try and prattle these off. I'm standing out in front of Olympus High right now, so I'm in the area as we speak. So if you hear a bell in the background, that's for kids
Well,
to go to class.
I got the list here, Ben, and one of them is a school that my children attended, Eastwood Elementary. And when I saw that Eastwood was on the list just now, my heart dropped. It just goes to show you the attachment parents have to school. Even though my kids have long since left Eastwood, of course, they're in their 20s now. But you've got Cottonwood, Crestview, Driggs, Eastwood, Morningside, Oak Ridge, Oakwood, William Penn, Rosecrest, and Upland Terrace elementaries. I mean, that's a lot of schools.
Well, when you're looking at this, you want to be as objective and broad looking as possible. We want to look at every piece of data and information. We got a lot of good feedback last night on things we should take into consideration. And we want to make sure that we go through a thoughtful process, a lengthy process to gain as much public input as possible. So, yeah, when we start these studies, the study started back in February, won't conclude until later this year in December. And the idea is to keep every option on the table so we can get feedback, and we haven't made a decision before we've had an opportunity for the community to provide that feedback.
So if I understand correctly, these schools are all generally located in the same geographic area. Is that right?
Yes.
So how would that impact parents then if you're closing 10 elementary schools in one area? Are their kids going to have to ride the bus for long periods of time?
So to be clear, we're not closing 10 schools.
Okay.
We're studying 10 schools for the potential of 1 to 3 closures.
Oh, that's good. That's good information.
So then what happens from there if let's say, worst case scenario, 3 schools do get closed? Is that is the domino effect that maybe you have to look at closing then some junior highs and some high school up there?
Not at this point in time, but we are experiencing a significant decline in birth rates in this area. And with due respect to what you were just talking about there, Holly, you're stealing all of our families. Families are selling homes. They're selling a 2,000 square foot Rambler in Mill Creek for $700,000-$800,000, and they're going and paying cash for a brand new property in Alpine or Lehigh or Saratoga Springs.
Right.
And they're getting 4,000 square foot and a quarter acre.
Right.
And it is a shifting demographic. Young families cannot afford homes in this particular area when the average home in this area is over $1 million.
Wow. Yeah. So you mentioned this is just the beginning of the process and it actually started a few months ago. What does the timeline look like from here?
So we have a parent and community committee that is working to help provide additional feedback. They're doing deep dive. We've had 3 meetings with that group already. This was an additional public comment opportunity. This was actually just a general town hall that was scheduled. And I knew we would talk about boundary studies, but it was open to any questions from any taxpayer. But the next process is for that committee to make some recommendations to our formal population analysis committee. Even if there's only 1 or 2 closures, we still have to make adjustments to boundaries. So that's why we're studying the whole area, is because even if your school's not going to close, we're going to have to adjust some boundaries here to bring those kids into some other places, if that makes sense.
Superintendent of the Granite School District on the line with us right now as the district studies the possibility of closing, Ben Horsley says, between 1 and 3 elementary schools. They are looking at, they're eyeing the, 10 right now to, draw some conclusions, but it sounds like it'll be whittled down between 1 and 3 when all is said and done. But you still have a lot of people paying property taxes up in that area who are just funding schools for, kids on the other side of town, Ben. So how do you reconcile that for people that are losing their neighborhood elementary school, but yet still having to fund these schools across, I-15 and beyond?
Well, we've closed 10 schools already in Granite School District in the last 7 years. And the vast majority of those, 7 of those, have come on the west side of the valley. This isn't an issue that's impacting Granite School District solely alone. Salt Lake School District closed 5 schools in the last few years. Right. Holly mentioned that they're looking at school closures even in a high-growth district like Alpine, and even Davis School District in my neighborhood school is under 300.
Right.
So this is a shifting practice. We are not producing as many kids as we used to. And if people are concerned about taxation and those types of questions, we're trying to equitably distribute the resources that we're given to make sure every school is successful. It does not make sense to spend $35 million to rebuild a building that we only have 200 kids in.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ben. I really appreciate your input and insight.
Yeah, again, they're eyeing 10 schools. Does not mean they're going to close 10 schools. Superintendent saying between 1 and 3 schools. They're all elementary schools. I read the list off a few minutes ago. Cottonwood, Crestwood, Driggs, Eastwood, Morningside, Oak Ridge, Oakwood, William Penn, Rosecrest, Upland Terrace Elementaries, all being eyeballed. But anytime you talk about closing schools,
right,
parents come running to the microphone. And I understand. The moment I read this list and I saw my children's own elementary school could potentially close, I mean, that elementary school meant the world to us, to Eastwood Elementary. An
emotional impact for sure.
Definitely an emotional impact. Yeah. Straight ahead, another speaking of impact, another key measure of President Trump's big, beautiful bill, no tax on tips and overtime. Holly and I are going to get into that one next.
It's time for the KSL Give-a-thon.
We need your help raising money for sick Utah kids receiving treatment at Primary Children's Hospital.
Go to kslkids.com and donate today.
Be a smile maker. An automatic gift each month helps save the lives of children all year long.
Sponsored by J&J Garden Center in Layton.
A big thanks to other generous sponsors, including the Utah Hyundai dealers, for their amazing support of the kids at Primary Children's.
The KSL Give-a-thon. We can't do it without you. Please give today at kslkids.com.
Discover the timeless value at Duke's Jewelers, a local treasure since 1948. Whether you're searching for a unique engagement ring or need expert watch repair, Duke's has been serving the community for over 75 years. It's the perfect time to visit and explore the wide selection of custom designs and quality gemstones. The skilled designers at Duke's can bring your dream piece to life, while experienced jewelers handle repairs and modifications in-house. Duke's Jewelers takes pride in value pricing, ensuring you receive the best prices every day. Need an appraisal? The Duke's Jewelers AGS certified gemologist is here to help. Whether it's hand or machine engraving, or redesigning old favorites into something new, get personalized service for every occasion. Visit Duke's Jewelers and experience the difference of locally operated expertise and dedication. Duke's Jewelers in Springfield, Utah.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Here with Matt Ashdown from True Rinse Carpet Cleaning. Matt, people are diving into spring cleaning. What can you share about cleaning inside the home?
Spring's the perfect time to hit reset and clean out filth and sickness that Utah winters bring into our homes. Carpet and rugs are a giant filter, so now's the time to clean and refresh. Our couches have taken a beating too. They're full of allergens, hairs, oils, spills, and things you probably don't even want to think about. They definitely need a spring refresh.
Yeah. True Rinse does things differently though, right?
True Rinse has been a professional carpet cleaning business for over 20 years. With countless hours of training, our technicians apply state-of-the-art cleaning techniques, using powerful combinations of water, heat, suction, and no harsh chemicals, delivering a safe, effective clean and a quicker dry time. That's why people choose True Rinse and stay loyal.
And you got a spring offer.
Yes, spring into savings. Get 3 areas clean for just $119.
3 areas for $119. Schedule now at TrueRinse.com. That's TrueRinse.com, Utah's carpet cleaning experts.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour is breaking news. A federal judge is blocking the Trump administration from attempting to dismantle the Department of Education. The injunction bars the administration from firing half the department's workforce and prohibits the department from transferring the management of student loans to the Small Business Administration. We'll continue to follow that story. We do have developing news on a story we first brought you yesterday afternoon regarding a civil lawsuit against BYU quarterback Jake Retzloff. The lawsuit by an anonymous woman accuses Retzloff of rape. His attorney denies the claims, and Retzloff has not been criminally charged. But the lawsuit also called out Provo police, saying an officer discouraged the woman from pursuing the case. KSL News Radio's Virl Johansson shares the department's response.
The lawsuit says after the woman identified Retzloff as the person who allegedly raped her, quote, the Provo police then encouraged her not to do anything. Provo police say the claims officers discouraged her from moving forward with the case are false. In a statement, police say they followed up with the woman several times to offer their services. They say the department does not turn people away, adding their special victims unit regularly brings justice to victims through their investigations. Provo police say they haven't been served any legal filing related to the case. Virl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story from ABC News. 2 staff members with Israeli embassy are dead after a shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington. ABC News contributor and former FBI agent Richard Frankel says law enforcement is combing the suspect's home in the Chicago area.
They're looking for motive. They're looking for why he did this. They're also looking for any connections to anyone else. Is this a lone wolf, a one-off, or is this something of a more far-reaching conspiracy where others are planning to do something similar?
The suspect reportedly yelled support for Palestine as he was taken into custody. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 89 points now. We're at 41,949. Coming up, beautiful weather in store, lots of sunshine and warm temperatures. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Do you want to make your house more comfortable, more energy efficient, more valuable? Well, maybe it's time you took a look at your doors and windows. And there's nobody around who does doors and windows better than Peach Doors and Windows.
Improve the functionality of your home with custom replacement windows, entry doors, patio doors. Maybe you have a sunroom or you want a new custom front door and windows to maximize the beauty of your home. Peach offers flexible financing available to fit any budget. They've got expert installation, including fiberglass doors, which are their specialty, and they'll replace your windows with the highest energy efficiency rating.
And customer service is a top priority. It's the reason why they have so many 5-star reviews on Google. You can check it out for yourself. You can also check them out online at peachbuildingproducts.com. You can call for a free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255.
Or see them in person, 2940 South, 300 West in Salt Lake City. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Go check out their beautiful showroom. It's Peach Doors and Windows.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff. Many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. With 3 locations, Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, and Performance Toyota, Performance Automotive is here to serve your needs. Performance Automotive in Bountiful, where excellence comes standard. Start your search at performancebountiful.com.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. And here is Virl Johansson.
Well, traffic's moving along nice and, moving along freely on I-15 north and southbound between Ogden and Provo. No major delays I-80 east and westbound between Twill and Park City. Even I-215 east and westbound moving around the Salt Lake Valley. Moving nicely along at the moment. Advanced Window Products, factory direct, affordable windows. Call today, they're on their way. Financing available, save now, pay later. AdvancedWindows.com. Burl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny and warmer today with a high around 84. Expect some winds late morning, early afternoon. Right now, sunny and 66 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
Well, it happened overnight when you were asleep, but it happened. The United States House of Representatives narrowly passing that tax bill as proposed by President Trump. So one of the things that, this bill covers all kinds of stuff, and we talked about it, a lot of it in the 9 o'clock hour, but one of the things we're going to dive into specifically right now is how it exempts overtime pay from federal taxes and also tips. We've talked quite extensively about the exemption for tips for federal income tax. And the potential implications for people who work on tips. Holly Richardson, Dr. Holly Richardson, in with me today. Hi.
Hi.
Longtime colleague of mine here at the Deseret News, also former Utah lawmaker. Holly on the Hill is the hashtag.
Yeah, back in the day.
And the great news going forward is starting June 9th, you and Greg Skordas, our longtime legal analyst here at KSL, will be taking over the 9 to noon slot with an all-new Inside Sources starting at 9 a.m.
We are so excited, and we know we have big shoes to fill. So thank you so much for that great intro.
What was your take this morning when you woke up? You saw this bill had passed and that it includes the exemption for overtime pay and tips.
Well, let me just tell you a tweet I read or a post on X, right? Because it's X now. And this was the post. My hairdresser told me that they would do my hair for $1 as long as I gave them a $50 tip.
But I think there's some parameters, there's some guardrails on this. Like the tips can't be more than like $25,000 a year.
Right. And you can't make more than, I think, $160,000. But this is, I mean, those are one of the issues, or some of the issues, where you talk about and say, okay, look, how is this actually going to work in reality? Because people who are making $160,000 a year are not doing it based on tips, right? That's not generally the population that is in a business where you're reliant on tips. In fact, there's like 40%, I think, of the people who are dependent on tips for their income. They don't even pay any income tax because their pay is so low.
Oh, because they're not making enough money.
They're not making enough
to owe federal income tax. So this will only affect federal income tax. This isn't about paying state income tax.
That's right.
But I've always wondered, if I did ever work in a field that I accepted tips, would I really declare all of that anyway?
Well, I can't speak to that. I never actually have worked in that kind of industry, but I don't know how all that works. I mean, legally you're supposed to, of course. Right.
Yeah.
So
we're going to take live calls in just a moment on this. No tax on tips, no federal income tax on overtime either. Do you like this idea or do you loathe it? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. We're going to take live calls in about 3 or 4 minutes, asking what your opinion is about no tax on tips and overtime. Do you like it or you loathe it? There was a time when I would have appreciated not paying federal income tax on overtime because there were years there where my overtime pay was more than my base pay.
Wow.
Because
a lot of hours.
I worked so much overtime.
Yeah.
I actually don't know, be fully transparent, if there's a cap. If there's a cap regarding overtime pay and federal income tax, that's something we can look into. But regardless whether there's a cap or not, I was making a ton of money in overtime. And so if I would have caught a little bit of a break from Uncle Sam on that, I would have appreciated it. It was a time when I was not making a lot of money and it was hard to make ends meet anyway. So I would have loved to catch a break on that. I've never worked in an industry where I have been tipped, but I have a lot of friends who do. I mean, a lot of friends who've been hairdressers. I have friends who drive rideshare,
right?
And they rely on tips. And this would apply to any tip. This is cash tips. This is if you Venmo a tip, if you put a tip in an app. So and I think the cap was to $25,000.
Right.
And I think, Hall, if I'm not mistaken, it will impact this tax year.
Yes, that's
if it
correct.
passes the Senate.
That's right. So one of the examples I read is if you were, for example, a bartender, your total compensation was $70,000, but you made $25,000 of that in tips, you could deduct that full $25,000, and then you're paying taxes on $45,000 instead.
So if you're making $70,000 in tips?
No, if you're if your total compensation was 70, but 25,000 of it was tips, you get to not pay taxes on that 25. So it also has the caveat in there that it has to be a profession that typically receives tips.
So we can't switch it.
That's right. We're not going to say, okay, now nurses, you're going to be tip-based, right? For example, we're not going to change professional definitions like that. So it's people who already are receiving tips as part of their compensation. That's what this is meant to apply to. And again, we mentioned the cap of $160,000 for people who receive tips.
I wonder if the friends that work at the restaurant that I went to last night are hearing this and they're cheering this morning. 801-575-TALK. Do you like it or do you loathe it? Part of the issue with this bill in general for a lot of people, a lot of the heartburn is that this will add to the federal deficit to the tune of $4 trillion. The overall bill, not just the tax on tips or the lack of tax on tips and overtime. The overall budget bill. It still has to wind its way over and through the Senate, but the House did pass it last night. And I want to bring Billy Hesterman, president of the Utah Taxpayers Association, into the conversation with us. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning, you both. Thanks for having me.
Have you met Holly yet?
We go way back.
You and I know each other way back. Congratulations, Holly, and it's great to talk to you.
Yes,
thank you.
She's going to be full time on this show very soon, on starting June 9th. So I think the last time we talked to you about this, though, Billy, you had some heartburn about it.
Yeah, when we look at the tips issue, sound tax policy starts with broaden the base and lower the rate. And the tips here is not necessarily broadening your base and lowering the rate. It's now picking winners and losers with the tax code. It's saying if you're a tip-based employee, we're going to give you a bit more of a break than we're going to give the ones that aren't. So if you have like a secretary and a waiter, the waiter now is getting, if they earn the same amount of money, the waiter now is getting a better tax benefit than that secretary. And so that's not the best tax policy idea. And that's concerning from that aspect, that we're now picking winners and losers with the tax code. And then, as you mentioned earlier, still concerns on this bill that we all love a good tax cut, and we're glad that the President Trump's tax cuts have been extended. But we still need to do something about the spending side and making sure that we're starting to get our country turned around in a way that we're not expanding our deficit, but that we're going to start making ground on making sure we're not in debt so much.
Right, and that's one of the key questions, especially on the Republican side of the aisle, I think. But I think there are certainly members across the board that are saying, look, we've got to slow down on the spending. So can you talk at all about the tips on overtime? That seems to maybe impact, for example, firefighters, or like Debbie mentioned earlier, she used to work a lot of overtime.
I was literally living off of overtime, and it was in my 20s, Billy. I would have loved it if the feds, Uncle Sam, gave me a break at that point. I had a lot less understanding, though, of debt and deficit in my 20s,
Right.
so I would have taken any break I could have gotten. And I would imagine there are quite a few folks who do work, work a lot of overtime, that this could benefit. And perhaps the thought is, well, they'll be spending that money and putting it back into the economy instead of putting it in the coffers.
I think you're exactly right. That is the thought process that they're having, is that, hey, if we give additional money back to the taxpayers, they're going to build more things, buy more things, take more trips, do the things that we do when we are given money. And, certainly that is an element that has to be taken into consideration. Again, the concern to me is just we're still favoring those that are getting tips or working overtime over those that don't necessarily do those. And so I think the better way to go would be, let's just find ways to lower the overall tax rates for everyone so that we're all paying a little bit less, instead of saying, you here in the economy, this little sector, you get a flower, and this little part of the sector, you get a flower. But the rest of you, you're going to keep working more to make up for that cut that we just made.
Well, we're asking for our listeners' ability to call in, and let me just let them know the phone number, 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Look, according to the Congressional Budget Office, this bill that passed the House last night, now moves over to the Senate, could add about $4 trillion to the deficit. As part of this bill, they're cutting out the federal portion of the tax on tips and the tax on overtime. So we're asking, do you like that? Or do you loathe it? Like, you're so sick of the deficit, you're like, we need to collect all the taxes we can in order to get things at least started on the right path here. 801-575-TALK, and Holly's got another question for you.
Well, one of the things that I'm reading, Billy, about the revenue piece of this is it's $124 billion in lost tax revenue with the tax break on tips. Oh, actually, that's the overtime, and an additional loss of $40 billion on the tax on tips. So that's, $168 billion, which I get in the federal scheme of things may be relatively small change, but it still has an impact. And so when you're talking about lowering taxes overall, we still have this giant deficit. So where do we make that up?
It's a great question. And as I've talked about before, I don't think that there's one lever we can pull that's going to fix this problem for us. It's going to have to be a change in our culture as a country, that we start holding our lawmakers accountable and our president accountable to say, we want balanced budgets. We want to start making ground on paying off this debt. We don't want to be spending in the deficit anymore. But the problem is none of us really understand it, and none of us really see it in our everyday life.
Right.
And so we just go, hey, if we get more money in our paycheck every 2 weeks, we'll take it.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anyone for that, but we do need to have, some leaders that can see around the corner and say, we got to do something about this. And that might mean, changes to our entitlement programs. It might mean changes to some of the defense spending we have. We really do have to look at the big things we spend money on and say, how can we do it better, more efficient, not put ourselves in danger, but make sure that we're doing things in a way that is smart and productive for our country in the future financially.
Billy Hesterman, the Utah Taxpayers Association, thank you so much for jumping on the line with us to kind of help us sort through what this all means, and your concerns as well. We appreciate you weighing in on this again. We're talking about the no tax on tips. It was a campaign promise that the president was talking about as a candidate. Now it is making its way over to actually, the Senate passed no tax on tips earlier this week, Holly. So I don't know if there were changes to it in this big, beautiful bill that passed the House last night, and they maybe have to
reconcile
right?
Yep.
Any of the differences.
Yep.
But the Senate passed it unanimously earlier this week, and that's where I came up with that's where we reported the $25,000 limit on that. So you can't, collect $80,000 in tips and
right.
and
right.
not pay
the
taxes
haircut
on all of
and,
it. So
yep.
there's Ken from Ogden. Hi, Ken.
Hi there.
So what's your take on this no tax on tips, no tax on overtime?
I don't know. I need to hear more about what's going on, but I have a question. We get rid of the tax on overtime. Is that going to affect our bottom line that we have to pay once taxes are due at the end of the year?
You know what? That's a great question. And for that, we'll probably get a CPA on the line in the coming days, because I think people have a lot of questions about this. Like, once it shakes out, what does that look like in the code,
right.
and what does that mean when you go to do your taxes?
That's right. I don't know the answer to that.
Hi,
either.
Heather. Are you?
Hello.
Do you love it? You love the idea of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime?
I don't love it.
You loathe it.
I'm just looking. No, I don't. I don't love it.
You don't? No, you do. You loathe it?
I don't know if I loathe it. I would be happy for those individuals, but I feel like it's they've made so many fired so many federal employees, and it doesn't make any sense to me why they're slashing certain people and then building a certain group of people, like your guest gentleman that was on earlier. I can't remember his name, but I agree with him where you're pandering to a certain demographic that maybe would get more votes, or I'm not really sure. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
The slashing of the federal employees.
Yeah,
then also doing this at the same
Heather,
time.
I see where you're coming from. That we talked about that yesterday when we talked about Doge in the show, and question, was it effective? Was it? And one of the things that I brought up was the number of young, new, fresh-eyed, fresh ideas, federal employees that got shown the door was staggering, right? It was staggering. And when you look at it that way, through that lens of all those people that were so excited about getting their job, landing their job in the federal government, which can take weeks, if not months. And when I went to work for the federal government, it was a 3-month hiring process. So you go all in on this, and then you find out they've eliminated your job. And when those people, lose their jobs, and yet now we've got waiters, servers, people who drive rideshare are the winners in this, in terms of it would be a financial win to them. I can see where it's hard to kind of reconcile, okay, how is this really,
Right.
it's hurting. A bunch of people just got hurt. They lost their jobs, and a bunch of people over here are getting helped. They get to keep more money.
Right. And I think if you look at it too, you've got they're slashing Medicaid, right? So you may have people who earn tips who also are receiving Medicaid benefits, right? Because they're just not paid very much at all. And so you can save a little bit on taxes, but you're having your health care pulled out from underneath you, for example.
So are you really getting any further ahead?
Right.
Yeah. Elvin, good morning. Are you Are you in favor of this idea of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime?
Yeah, I am. And the reason why I am is because everybody I know that's working those type of jobs, and me myself, I work a lot of overtime. It's because I have to work overtime just to make ends meet, or, I happen to have a wife with a medical condition that's very expensive, and it goes beyond what I can put into my medical savings account tax-free. If I didn't have to work overtime, I wouldn't. But just because the way life is, don't penalize me because I'm willing to work hard instead of not work at all and then sit on government programs to help, make them pay my bills instead of me paying my own.
Well, thank you for calling in. We appreciate that feedback, and
it's at another perspective.
Yeah,
and I feel that don't have all those same circumstances, but back many years ago when I was working a ton of overtime and I had to rely on overtime,
right,
in order to make rent, be able to pay, pay for a car or car repair, pay for insurance, and then constantly seeing so much money sucked out of my paycheck. It just brings up this dilemma,
right? One of the pieces of broader conversation is that this could create a two-tiered system. And in Michigan earlier this year, they actually passed a bill that said you can pay people who get tips lower than minimum wage as long as the tips make up to the minimum wage standard, right?
Well, that's what we do here for servers, right? We pay, I don't know how much it is.
Something an hour.
If you're a server at a restaurant, so you really have to lean into
tips,
right?
So anyway, it's going to end up working itself out in some ways that I think some of them will be painful and some of them might be beneficial, and all tax policy is controversial.
Straight ahead, is it time to say bye-bye? Bye-bye. Woo. To the penny? There's a story in the Wall Street Journal talking about the future of the penny, and Holly and I are going to talk about it next. We're going to give our 2 cents in a moment.
Good one.
It's been so important in this news show to hear how the news is impacting you.
Midday.
How this is really going to impact your life or your children's safety or your husband's job. To hear that wow moment from you.
Midday with Maria Shilaos.
I invite you to join us from noon to 3 right here on KSL News Radio.
Summer is almost here. It's time to get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Hey there.
You're looking good.
My name is Corey Sulian. My wife and I began our Soda weight loss journey on January 20th of this year. We have seen some amazing results. I have lost 59.4 pounds. My wife lost 30.3 pounds, and we feel great.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss, because right now you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I love Soda Weight Loss. Thank you for helping to change our lives. I highly recommend it for anybody who wants to lose weight or get healthy.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
When is the optimal time to file for Social Security? That could help you get every penny that is rightfully yours. Get the answer in a free report, your guide to filing for Social Security in 2025 and beyond. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, who's helped tens of thousands of families get the most out of their benefits. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. Timing, taxes, spousal benefits. This free report details the most critical things you must consider that could help you get the most income from your Social Security benefits today. Get this free report right now by calling 801-251-1046. That number again, 801-251-1046.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Looking for a university that offers more than just a degree? Welcome to Utah Tech University in St. George, Utah, one of the fastest growing universities in the nation. With more than 300 academic programs, 300 days of sunshine, the most engaged student life in the state, and Utah's most affordable university tuition, Utah Tech is where opportunity meets value. Utah Tech's Polytechnic mission means you'll gain real-world skills through internships, mentorships, partnerships, and hands-on learning that gets you career-ready from day one. And the nation is taking notice. Utah Tech was recently named one of the country's most prestigious universities, driving student success and career growth, ranked 21st in the nation for value, and recognized as one of 10 prominent universities to watch. Come see why students are thriving at Utah Tech, where it's all about active learning, active life. Visit utah.tech.edu today and start your journey.
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Verl Johansson. KSL's top local story this hour. Motorcycle accidents and deaths are already higher this year than last year. KSL News Radio's Alessandra Gurr reports.
According to the Utah Highway Safety Office, deadly motorcycle accidents are 80% higher so far this year. They say most of these accidents are happening on highways, with nearly half of them coming from single vehicle crashes, meaning a motorcycle rider alone is getting into a crash. As of Tuesday, there have been over 380 crashes involving motorcycles, with 16 of them being fatal.
So far this year, a quarter of motorcycle fatalities and crashes involve riders who do not have a license or endorsement. Utah County search and rescue teams are gearing up for another busy summer, undergoing critical swiftwater training. Wasatch Technical Rescue Training Instructor Josh Hickens tells KSL TV they need to get trained up now, since Memorial Day is usually the kickoff for the season.
It's very critical. We've had too many incidents in the last few years where people are not paying attention to the riverside.
The search and rescue teams expect Bridal Veil Falls to be a busy spot for them once again. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump's proposed spending bill will head to the Senate after passing in the House early this morning. It passed with a 1-vote margin after 2 Republicans joined Democrats to vote against it. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 54 points, S&P up 9, NASDAQ up 119. Coming up, a nice little cool down as we head into the weekend. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
It's springtime in the Rockies, and it's time to apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. Take advantage of spring storms with an application of Revive now. Protect yourself from drought later this summer and skyrocketing water costs. With Revive, if you water 2 times a week, it's like watering 4. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
Behold, 'tis I, Queen Trustworth, sentinel for seniors amongst the Knights of Scamelot, here to give thee warning. Scams and fraud are on the rise in Utah, and seniors are especially under siege. Be wary of unsolicited texts, phone calls, and salespeople asking for personal or financial information. And never send money to someone thou hast only met online. If thou hast doubts, talk to someone thou trusteth and get educated at scams.utah.gov.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's homegrown home loans. Smooth sailing this morning on I-15 north and southbound between Ogden and Provo. I-80 looking good as well, east and westbound between Park City and Tooele. No major delays on the 201 freeway either. Water belongs in pipes, not in your yard or on your floor. Call Utah Utility Pro, your leak detection and repair specialists. Water, sewer, main, and gas lines. Utah Utility Pro, utahutilitypro.com. Today will be sunny and warmer with highs in the mid-80s. Expect some winds in the late morning and early afternoon. Right now, fair conditions in 69 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Burl Johansson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
It's almost time to say bye to the penny. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the government will stop making pennies by early next year. Holly Richardson co-hosting with me today. What was your take on that?
Oh, you know what? It just makes me smile, right? So find a penny, pick it up all day long. You'll have good luck. We'll have to switch to quarters or something, right? I mean, it's just pennies. Who even carries them anymore? So I actually just moderated a presentation by the last two finalists for state superintendent the other day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and we had to pick who was going to go first. It took some effort to find a coin that somebody had that we could flip a coin to pick who was going to go first.
You flipped a coin.
There we go. See?
Where'd you end up finding the coin?
Like somebody had one stuck in a wallet. It's like just in case. But what does a quarter buy you? I don't even know anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking about the penny here. I never walk by a penny that's on the ground. I pick it up because I feel like, the rest of the day I'm going to have good luck.
You know, there's a whole cultural thing about pennies are signs from loved ones who have passed on. And so, like, if you have a loved one that has gone to heaven, that they will leave you a penny in your path. And that may have to change if we take these pennies out of circulation. And of course, one of the reasons they're really talking about this is it costs almost 4 cents to produce a penny.
So you're a former lawmaker on Utah's Capitol Hill. If they came to you with a report that said for every penny we make, it costs the taxpayer 4 cents,
right?
What would your thought be?
Well, that's not very efficient use of taxpayer dollars, right? So we know in pennies that it's like $85 million we lose every year in just producing the pennies. And then we lose them because people throw them out, or they get left behind at the airport, or, they fall on the ground and people don't pick them up.
Yeah, I do pick them up. But I will say this, if I pick up a penny, or if I find a penny at the bottom of my purse, like purse crackers, it's a mess. I will occasionally, if it was a quarter, I would run it under the faucet and clean it up and save it for a rainy day.
Right.
If it's a penny, I'm like, is that illegal?
Right.
I just toss this thing in the trash can. But this is a 200-year-old currency tradition that we're getting rid of. And it's going to save us $85 million. Well, that's a drop in the bucket.
It is.
I know we need to, we need to nickel and dime our way. I get it, to a better, more fiscally sound America. But $85 million, I don't think this is about. Personally, I just don't think this is my opinion, it's about cost saving necessarily. I think this is about, we just really are moving away from cash.
We are. Yeah, we are. And, this is not the first. It would not be the first coin to go away. We used to have a half penny or a hay penny.
What?
Yeah. And we got rid of that in 1857. It was a long time ago.
No wonder I didn't know that. So it saves $85 million, lost just last year. Over $85 million lost last year on a $3 billion penny production. So, I mean, this is not a winning proposition financially. And 60% of actively circulated coins, this is interesting, 60% of actively circulating coins, which is up to $14 billion, sit in coin jars.
Right. I have a little coin bowl, and I have pennies, but I also have international coins and stuff that just sit there that I don't ever do anything with them. But It's not just the penny, too, although I don't think anybody's talking about the nickel. But to produce a nickel, it actually costs almost 14 cents per nickel.
Do you think the nickel might be the next
maybe
in line?
Right? So what will happen with prices, and I think a lot of people might wonder about that, is you would either round up or round down to the nearest 5 cents, right? So you just wouldn't have those single digits at the end anymore.
So I was one of the last holdouts to stop going to the ATM once a week to get cash out. I think there's still plenty of people out there who use cash.
Yeah.
I was just reluctant to lean into, at the time it was like credit cards.
Right.
Because I didn't like the idea of money piling up on my credit card. As I feel
Right.
like it's more easily, like I'm wasted when I'm just, putting on a credit card.
Right. When people do cash-based budgeting,
Yeah,
right, then
I
it's
like
easier to
that.
see. Yeah.
I like that. But so I was a holdout on that. Now, I usually cannot find a buck in my wallet if somebody asks me for $1.
I know.
Sometimes people will come up to you on the street and say, "Do you have $1?" And I legitimately say, "I do not."
Right.
I no longer carry.
Right.
I don't have $1.
Yeah.
Sometimes one of my kids will say, "Do you have $5 or something like that, Mom?" I'm like, "No, I literally, you'll have to take my debit card and you have to go to the ATM to get that money out."
Right.
So I was a holdout on that. Now I don't have, any cash, and now I am becoming much more prolific about Venmo, and like the cash apps, and now eventually I feel like I am teetering on like Apple Pay. Like when I start going to Apple Pay, that just like cash is dead to me.
Right. And checks too for me, right? I mean, I used to write all of my bills out in checks, and now it's just automatically deducted. But it's interesting. It's such a deeply embedded part of our culture. I mean, it's been around almost since the founding of the country. These pennies, right? I used to be able to buy candy with a penny, so now that ages me. But we used to have penny candy, but we don't anymore.
Yeah. Oh no, there's nothing you can buy for a penny.
Penny stocks, maybe, but it's
There's
not literally a penny.
Yeah, there's nothing you can. This was talking about culture. It says this article in the Wall Street Journal says it was one of the first coins minted by the U.S. Mint in 1792. I do think I've said this very recently. We go through seasons,
right?
And it's just time to retire the penny. It may be time to retire the nickel. But I think there's still a lot of people who say, I only want to pay in cash. I don't want to pay with credit cards. I will not ever have an app on my phone that allows me, well, you probably do have the app. It's the wallet, Apple Wallet, but you don't want to use that to tap. But then there's in the younger generation who doesn't want anything at all to do with cash. It just they are totally into technology, and that's the way things are going.
It is, and I do think things are changing, and change is hard. We've got lots of evidence of that, but we'll adjust. If we don't have pennies anymore, even if they stop producing, they'll still stay in circulation for a while, but it will adapt. We'll adapt, right? We'll adjust.
I wonder if they'll become collector's items.
They probably will,
I don't
right?
know.
Maybe they'll be worth a nickel.
I've told the story on the air before. I used to collect wheat pennies.
Yeah.
And I felt like someday I was going to be able to, sit on my billions because they were going to be worth something. Right. And then I put them in a top drawer of our dresser. And when we got married, I would just keep all the wheat pennies in the top drawer of a dresser. And I guess I failed to communicate. That's shocking to my husband. That those are my collector item pennies. That one day they were going to pay off to the tune of millions
off the mortgage,
of billions.
right?
Yeah, and every time our 2.5 or 3-year-old daughter, when she was about 3 years old, would do something good, like a chore or something like that around the house, and he would say, "Oh, that's a win," and he was giving away my penny, and then she would run it to her piggy bank, which was one of those huge baby bottles that you get. When you're at your baby shower. She had one of those huge baby bottles, and she filled that up with all my wheat pennies. I didn't know that until after we had taken the baby bottle jar to
give her $1 for her 100 pennies.
Yeah, so all my wheat pennies went back into circulation.
Right.
I think I cried.
So it's interesting. We would not even be the first country to start producing this 1 cent coin, right?
Oh.
So Canada stopped.
Yeah.
Australia stopped.
They
New
got rid of
Zealand
it.
stopped. Yeah, they just don't have them anymore.
So let's ask our listeners, 801-575-TALK. Maybe the penny's already dead to you. Do you use cash or do you go cashless? Cash or cashless? 801-575-TALK. Boy, I'd really love it if Caitlin Johnston, our producer, our millennial, jumped into the conversation straight ahead. 801-575-TALK. Cash or cashless? Taking your live calls next.
This time of year, so many wonderful things are going on. First of all, there are graduations. There are many weddings. The list goes on. And you will be so pleased, and the person that maybe receives the gift will be so pleased if you include Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Maybe for a wedding luncheon, perhaps for a graduation celebration. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse at Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City, they will absolutely take care of you and your group. It's time to make your reservations and gift cards. By the way, in that graduation card that you're sending out, how about a gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse? Everything is always perfect. And don't forget, this is probably the most important thing of all, since I am a father, Father's Day. Don't overlook dear old Dad. He will love going to Ruth's Chris, that's a hint, Steakhouse, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Well, make sure you join KSL and, of course, the movie show this Friday from 11 to 1 at Fat Cats in Clinton. Here's the address, 2062 West, 1800 North. That's fatcatsfun.com.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s. And less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635 and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Dave, and Dujanovic.
Well, looks like the penny is falling victim to time. Government announcing, according to the Wall Street Journal, it's going to stop producing pennies by early next year. So it's just right around the corner. The penny will meet its demise. They're not going to take them all out of circulation. They're just going to stop making them. Holly Richardson in today, longtime colleague of mine here at the Deseret News, also former Utah lawmaker and soon to be host from 9 to noon right here on KSL News Radio for our all new Inside Sources, which will launch with Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on June 9th.
I'm so excited to give you my 2 cents worth.
Please do.
Double
Please
pennies.
do. What do you think about this, getting rid of the penny?
Oh, I mean, I'm one of the people who doesn't use coins anymore, right? And I rarely carry cash bills either, right? I just, everything is automated now and goes on my debit card.
And that's a question that we're asking. Are you a cash person or do you go cashless? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Give us a call. Tell us which one and why. Caitlin Johnston, our producer. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, sorry, voice.
You remind me.
I haven't talked out loud today. Just kidding.
Oh, you've been yelling at me since 7 o'clock this morning. What do you mean you haven't talked out loud, Miss Innocent over there? Okay, so give us your 2 cents on this.
Well, I'm pretty cashless, honestly. It just phased out of my life. I don't know the last time I've carried cash or coins in my wallet. I guess I have some coins in my car that just live there for an emergency.
Is that a younger generation thing? Like you go to a concert with your friends, or you go out to dinner with your friends. Does anybody take out a $100 bill and slap it on the table?
That's unheard of.
Right. You split the bill. right?
You Venmo each other.
And
or whatever.
Venmo,
You
yeah.
Venmo.
Well, whatever works. You split it, you Venmo, you do whatever you need to do. But it's easier, I think. I don't know. There's pros and cons to not doing that. Cash for me, I actually like using it because I can see it and I don't spend as much. So there is that benefit, but I just don't carry it anymore.
Yeah. Linda in Salt Lake. Hi, Linda.
Hi. Yeah, I'm glad they're getting rid of the pennies.
Why?
I think coins just make your wallet heavy.
Right?
I mean, yes, my wallet is so heavy, sometimes I just forget about the coins. But I use dollars a lot. I have a cleaning lady, and she likes me to pay cash. She doesn't like me to do or all those. So, I always pay her like $60,
Oh, my.
So I just get a 50 and a 20, and
Okay.
so I use that.
Well, and if you leave a penny as a tip, that's an insult, right? I mean, you can't leave a penny as a tip. So, Linda, thanks so much. Love it when you call in. It's always fun to hear from you. 801-575-TALK. The government says it's getting rid of. They're going to stop producing the penny next year, early next year. They say early next year. Maybe it's government standard time.
Right.
But this, Holly, there's more to it than than to just, they're going to stop making the penny. They're going to start saving money, not a lot of money in government, in the government world. But
it costs almost 4 cents to make a single penny. So they've just looked at this, and I think probably the overall cultural move away from cash and coins, and this is a decision that is coming down from the federal government saying we're just done.
On our text line at 57500, of course, you can send us a text if it's safe to do so. This listener says, I just used 3 pennies at the post office. Just needed 1 stamp. Don't use stamps much. 3 cents for a stamp. I thought they were a lot more than that. But maybe that's just to kind of, put some coin in the stamp machine to buy a stamp. Don't use stamps anymore. I agree. I mailed a birthday card the other day. And do you know how long it took me to find the book of stamps I bought 6 months ago? You buy the forever stamps.
Yeah, and then you can't find them.
Yeah, then you couldn't find it. So I found 1 stamp and then a few extra stamps. So now I put them in a place I'll remember next time. But it'll probably be, let me think, it'll probably be a couple more months before I need to use a stamp again.
Well, what's interesting is you're still mailing cards, right? So
I do. I still mail birthday cards.
Yeah, that's going out of favor as well.
Yeah. What are they all going to be? Email?
Venmo. Yeah, email cards and Venmo cash. Yep.
Money.
Yep.
Yeah. Caitlin, are you a millennial, Gen Z?
I'm millennial technically.
Okay.
On the cusp.
And when you guys are sitting at the table with the Venmo thing going, did that just kind of take over from the time that you started like hanging out with friends as an adult?
Yeah.
Did you ever really know a time? Because it used to be, maybe Holly remembers this, in the good old days, when you went to a restaurant with a bunch of people, what you would have to do is make sure you went to the bank ahead of time, or at least, maybe hit a grocery store and got some change back, that you would want to make sure you brought enough cash to not have to put it on one person's credit card.
Right.
Because you were never
sure. You pile it all in the middle of the table.
Well, yeah, if you were the one, and this bit me a few times, who put their credit card down and the other friends didn't have cash and there was nothing called Venmo back then, you were the one that got, quote unquote, stuck with the bill. So you kind of grew up in a generation where you just didn't have this problem with cash.
Once I was a working adult with my own money, I can say, like when I was younger, I could say my mom gave me $20. Here's what I've got. But there are only times that I've experienced that, because I've done that and I've gone to, or I've just needed to exchange money with people. It's people who get tips as their main income always have cash. So it still was a thing and still can be a thing. But primarily, I don't have a strong memory of that ever being a thing. I never needed to go get cash.
I can tell stories. I can tell stories. And if you're listening, you know who you are. Jim and Orem, you're strictly cash, huh?
Yes, I am.
Why?
I'm the older generation.
Nice. Nice.
But yes, I have a young man that comes and mows my lawn once a week. I give him $20, I also carry the cash in because when I go into a restaurant, I give up front to the waiter or waitress their tip.
Wow.
Already beforehand.
Nice.
My daughter works at a restaurant and has to live on tips. And she tells me all the time how many she gets stiffed because they don't give her any tip. And the restaurant, she wished they would go where you, on your receipt, that you're charged a tip.
Okay.
Because so many times she doesn't get a tip, and she lives on that.
Oh yeah, no, I always tip. Yeah, I always tip. And so I'm sorry that happens from time to time. There's still people out there that don't tip, but yet we were talking about tips earlier in the show because this just
taxes on tips.
The taxes on tips and the federal government, at least the budget that was passed out of the House, will significantly reduce the tax burden on tips at the federal level anyway for those who live on tips, but. Penny isn't the only thing that needs to go away, according to this texter at 57500. Holly, they're also chiming in and saying the nickel needs to go away. And you had a stat on how much it costs to make the nickel.
Considerably more than a penny. It costs almost 14 cents per nickel to make. So that's a big lift, right?
Overall, though, the savings on this isn't
in the big
lot.
scheme of things, right?
No.
I mean, to normal people, $85 billion is a lot of money, but to the federal government, it's like pocket change.
Well, when we're talking about this budget bill potentially adding $4 trillion to the federal deficit, doesn't seem like an $85 million savings is that much. But I guess it's like with any even household budget. You got
every little bit adds up.
Yeah,
right?
You got to nickel and dime your way to a better budget. Thanks, Caitlin, for hopping in studio with us on this and giving us the perspective of a millennial.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it.
Straight ahead, we're going to go in depth on that budget bill that passed in the wee hours of the morning while you're all sleeping. What's in it and what's out next.
I want the news stories to really capture the environment that the story took place in.
Midday, all new from noon to 3.
I really want to take you to that spot where the community is really making an improvement in their neighborhood through a cleanup project, where the Cross Guard is helping those children cross the street.
Midday.
Those are the stories that really have an impact on you.
Midday with Maria Chaleos. Listen between noon and 3 on KSL News Radio.
I just love that Mountain Home Services can offer you all kinds of different services. So it's time to get that spring honey-do list taken care of. They can come work on your HVAC, your heating and air. Maybe you need a new HVAC system. Now's the time to call because it's going to start warming up, we hope. Maybe it's your plumbing that needs to be looked at or your electrical. Looking at maybe some new lighting in the kitchen or those electrical outlets just aren't what they used to be. Mountain Home Services is your go-to. And they've got this upfront pricing guarantee that we've told you so much about. And that means that the price that they quote you when they start the job or before they start the job is the price that you pay when the job is done. So there's no hidden fees and you get 100% satisfaction guarantee. So upfront pricing guarantee, no hidden fees, 100% satisfaction guarantee. That's Mountain Home Services. That's what they do. So make sure you call and ask about the special offer for KSL listeners. Their number is 801-543-2222. One more time, 801-543-2222. Or you can look them up online at mountainhomeservices.com.
In Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about land art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Pantheon Clinical Research is conducting a clinical study for children and teens. Is your child struggling with bipolar depression? If your child is between 10 and 17 years old and experiencing symptoms of depression associated with bipolar disorder, such as persistent sadness, loss of interest in activities, trouble sleeping, low energy, difficulty concentrating, or even suicidal thoughts, Pantheon Clinical Research may be able to help. We are ready to take your call anytime. Call our phone lines at Pantheon Clinical Research at 385-281-0550. That's 385-281-0550. We're conducting a no-cost clinical study for children and teens facing bipolar depression. Participants will receive study-related care, medical tests, and investigational treatment from a dedicated medical team, all at no cost and with no health insurance required. Call Pantheon Clinical Research today at 385-281-0550. That's 385-281-0550, or visit our website at pantheonclinical.com to learn more. Hope starts here.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. It's been described as looking like a scene from a movie. A small jet crashed into a San Diego neighborhood this morning, leaving a trail of destruction.
Incredibly, despite almost a dozen homes being destroyed by the plane and fire and cars in the street burned up, rescuers believe nobody on the ground, many of whom were asleep in bed just before 4 a.m., was seriously injured. Those on board the plane were killed, says San Diego Assistant Fire Chief Dan Eddy.
We're working with the FAA right now to find out how many actual people were registered on that plane.
The plane went down in dense fog. There was no Mayday call. Alex Stone, EBC News.
The Utah Court of Appeals says Vail Resort will have to pay $2 million after an accident at a company bowling party.
The Utah Court of Appeals is siding with Amy Herzog, who was injured at a 2022 Vail Resort-sponsored bowling party in Kimball Junction. According to a press release from her attorney, Herzog was retrieving a stuck ball when a Vail employee recklessly spun and released another ball, crushing her hand. She's had 3 surgeries and now has permanent damage. A jury awarded her over $2 million, and the appeals court just upheld that decision. Vail Resorts had argued the damages were excessive.
KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera reporting. Your money at this moment: Dow down 7 points, NASDAQ up 79. Coming up, it's getting warmer outside. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Summer is right around the corner.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss. Today is a new day.
And a big day for you.
Why?
Why?
Because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda weight loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
Soda Weight Loss has one goal, and that's to help you let go of the weight for good.
So I lost 25 pounds. I was never hungry. It was very, very easy. I couldn't believe how fast the weight came off.
Now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results. Hurry.
Cravings won't last long.
Let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the grrr.
Not with Fix Finder. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply. Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Tell us about the roads, Heather Kelly.
Well, they're looking great right now. No accidents reported on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, or the 201 freeway. We don't even have any delays right now, although that's probably going to change within the next hour on US 89 northbound as you move through Layton, heading over I-84 and up to Harrison Boulevard. It's because we've got high school graduations happening at Weber State University, and US 89 gets overly congested when that happens. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialists. Whipple that away. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs in the 80s today and tomorrow. Saturday, we could see some more cloud coverage and see temperatures back in the 70s. Right now, it's 71 degrees and sunny. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, where Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Holly, do you want to dive back into that big, beautiful budget bill?
Sure. It sounds like a Dr. Seuss thing, right? The big, beautiful budget bill.
We're going to talk about it again because it is a big... And it's a big bill. It's 1,000 pages, and it is a big deal. The House passing it in the wee hours of the morning while you were all asleep. I woke up to it this morning. You woke up to it this morning. Holly Richardson, Dr. Holly Richardson, co-hosting with me today. But before long, she will be the host along with the other host of this news show. We're launching all new Inside Sources 9 to noon weekdays right here on KSL News Radio as I step into retirement on June 6th. They'll take over the show on June 9th. So it's great to have you in a little bit early to talk about this really important bill that passed last night, now moves over to the Senate.
Right.
there's a lot in it. And you mentioned in the break, you said, Deb, there's so much in it. Maybe we need to walk through with our listeners what's in, what's out. And I thought you made a really good point because there's a lot of things that might appeal to certain people that won't appeal to others. So why don't you start with what stands out to you?
Yeah, you bet. One of the things that's out, actually, is one of the things that Representative Celeste Malloy had proposed, and that is that sale of public lands in Utah.
It was like 11,000 acres.
Something like that, yeah. So overall, in the big scheme of things, not that many acres, but there was certainly pushback on that, and that was stripped out of the bill as they, worked through this process of trying to get to passage.
It seemed like it happened at the last minute too, Holly. Like
it was yesterday evening, I think, that piece came out. Yeah, so there has to be some discussion, and one of the things that was a sticking point is the SALT cap, and I actually had to look it up. So it actually is an acronym for state and local tax deductions. But what that looked like is that you before 2017, you could actually deduct your state and local taxes unlimited. And then in 2017, Donald Trump, who was president at the time, signed a bill that put a cap on it and said, okay, you can deduct up to $10,000 that you're paying in state and local taxes. And there was a back and forth between, are we going to remove it completely, or how are we going to get to this number? And what they decided on was that they were going to take the ceiling from $10,000 to $30,000 for people who are filing jointly who make less than $400,000 a year. So if you live in a high tax state, right, where the state taxes are higher, you can now deduct those from your federal taxes.
I'm not as familiar with this as you are. Maybe we don't have the answer to this just yet. Does that mean like property taxes?
As far as it's state and local income taxes.
Oh, income taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
some
that
states have zero. Some states have really high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kicks it up, or it puts it back in place, and it kicks it up quite a bit.
Right. It increases the ceiling to $30,000.
Here's what stood out to me. It just jumped off the page at me. No taxes on automobile loan interest.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know how this is going to shake out once we all go to file our taxes, but I do know how this one shakes out. No tips on certain tips.
No tax on tips.
No tips. No more tips, folks.
No more tips. No. We're not changing policy.
When you fell asleep last night, you had no idea we'd be waking up to no more tips if you're a server at a restaurant. No, that's not it at all. I misspoke. It is no tax on tips if you work in a job that mainly deals in tips.
Right.
So you can't, you can't be like a salesperson who never gets tips, and
right.
then all of a sudden now you're filing.
We're changing the pay structure, right? Yeah.
But if you're a server,
right.
If you drive Uber,
right.
If you traditionally
you're
get
a pet
tips,
groomer or a nail technician or all of those,
and there's a cap on that. It's I think it's $25,000 at least for this year,
right?
And also for some who get overtime pay, your federal taxes on overtime pay will be eliminated as well. Now, I think the controversy here is that eliminating taxes for some federal taxes
right.
specifically, but then you're also, on the other hand, adding with this budget bill, like this Congressional Budget Office says almost $4 trillion over a decade
right.
Would increase the federal deficit. There's some heartburn there with giving tax breaks to some.
Right. And the people who would get those tax breaks potentially are also going to be impacted on cutting Medicaid by $700 billion and SNAP benefits, which are food assistance, by another $300 billion. So basically another $1 trillion. Right. So on the one hand, it's like you can have this tax benefit, but on the other hand, you're going to lose all these other potential benefits that you might be using. Yeah.
Your health care or your food stamps.
Yeah.
We spoke earlier in the show when we came out of the gates this morning at 9:05 on this topic with Gina Cornea, who's with Utahns Against Hunger. And I asked her, I was like, what was your reaction to this?
Oh, so deeply disappointed in Congress, and that they are willing to literally take food and medical care away from their constituents to pay for tax cuts that will largely, be helpful for those who are the richest in corporations. And, states are going to be left holding the bag.
So that's one of the things, too, that we didn't really talk about. Who benefits the most from these types of tax cuts? And I've seen a lot of analysis that it's really the top 10% of income earners, right? And the bottom 50% are not going to see that much benefit from these tax cuts. But there are other things in the bill as well, right? I mean, one of the big things for the Trump administration is the border. So this bill allocates $50 billion to build the wall. And there's $150 billion in defense spending for not only increasing shipbuilding for the U.S. Navy, but also building this Golden Dome missile defense system.
Yeah, and I haven't looked into that. It kind of reminds me of what they have in Israel.
In Israel, yeah.
Where bombs can't penetrate the Iron Dome there, and this would be called the Golden Dome. And the cost, and of course this isn't going to be built overnight, but the cost to doing this is in the billions and billions of dollars. Looks like, are you reading this right? The Defense Department gets $350 billion in new spending in this legislation?
Yeah, and what's interesting is defense spending is one of the really big areas of spending for the U.S. government, right? And so if you're looking for waste, fraud, and abuse, you want to be able to keep defense spending so that we're competitive, right, and that we keep ourselves safe. But if you remember back in the day, remember there was like an $800 toilet or something like that, right? That people were paying for. That's one of the things that people could have looked at when they were talking about DOGE cuts, but we really didn't touch defense spending at all.
I'm going to just go back real quick to the tax issue, because there's been a lot of talk about the Trump tax cuts.
Right.
So under this proposal, well, it's not a proposal. The House has passed it. It's moving over to the Senate. It would increase the standard income tax deduction to $32,000 for joint filers. I'm hoping that means $16,000 for single folks like me. Actually, I hope it means a lot more, but it doesn't. It probably means about $16,000 for single folks. And it would boost the child tax credit. I read this would be a temporary boost the child tax credit to $2,500. So that's for each child. So it goes up, I think, $500 per child. So here again, you're talking about dealing with the deficit, trying to get our spending under control like a family would, sitting down at the table and with your significant other, and you're spending, $100,000 a year more than you're bringing in. You're going to do something about it, right? I mean, you think, or you're going to end up in bankruptcy court. But here we have, the standard deduction being increased and the child tax credit being increased. Look, I'm a mama. I know how much those kids cost to raise, and $2,500 at $2,500, whatever that number shakes out to be, it's going to $2,500 at least for now, doesn't nearly touch the cost of raising your child. I understand that. However, we also have this other issue at hand where we're adding apparently to the deficit significant amounts of money, and it's hard to reconcile. No family could do this, whereas keep spending, keep taking away from the income, which is essentially what this does. It doesn't put as much money in the coffers, and then continue to spend to the tune of in the government's case, billions and billions of dollars.
I think one of the things that Billy Hesterman mentioned earlier, and he's the director of the
president of the Utah Taxpayers Association. He was live on the line with us, talking about the tax on tips, no tax on tips.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things he mentioned, though, is that people like D.C. is far away, and they're talking about billions and trillions of dollars. But what a lot of people and a lot of voters care about is how does that impact their bottom line? And so if you are a family and you're raising a family in Utah, we now have tax benefits for families through state tax policy, additional child tax credits. And we have now this federal tax policy. So if you're a young family and you're counting your pennies or your nickels, right? Since we're getting rid of the penny, this is something that's going to impact you, and you're going to, I think, look on this overall bill more favorably because it impacts your bottom line in a positive way.
Yeah, here's what Billy Hesterman said just a while ago. We had him on the air at about an hour ago or so talking about the removal of tax on tips, at least federal tax on tips.
We all love a good tax cut, and we're glad that President Trump's tax cuts have been extended, but we still need to do something about the spending side and making sure that we're starting to get our country turned around in a way that we're not expanding our deficit, but that we're going to start making ground on making sure we're not in debt so much.
Right. And I mean, again, the bottom line is we're continuing to spend, the federal government. And I've been involved in Utah politics for 25 years, which is crazy to me. But from the time I really started paying attention to politics, both sides have been talking about we need to decrease federal spending, and neither side decreases it. That's the problem.
Yeah. We haven't, I don't think, touched on the work requirements that is also in this spending or in this budget bill. The work requirements specifically for, let's talk about the work requirements for food, food stamps.
We can talk about Medicaid first, maybe, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So the new work requirements would say that if you are healthy, if you're able-bodied, and you're between the ages of 19 and 64, and you don't have dependents, there will be an increase in expectation that you're going to work while you get these benefits. One of the issues that Gina brought up earlier is that you may live in an area where a high unemployment rate is. That's difficult. Actually, I think that was our national reporter. That if you live in an area with a high unemployment rate, which is not Utah, you may struggle to find a job, right, to meet these minimum requirements. So it's going to also put some additional requirements on states. So, for example, Utah would have to conduct Medicaid eligibility redeterminations every 6 months. That's an additional burden on the states that they're going to have to do
to
that.
see if somebody's still qualified for it.
Yeah.
Now, under the food stamp program, though, let me read this. Maybe this will resonate with you. Maybe this is similar to what they're doing with Medicaid. Is that they are also implementing new work requirements for SNAP benefits as well. And my understanding of that, as I'm going through this, is that you could be the age of 64 years old.
Right. They've increased those. That used to be 55, and now it's 55 up to 64.
And they're increasing that where there would be work requirements. But I think the mix there is it's either work or community activities. And it would be 80 hours a month. So, again, who's keeping track of all that?
Right. And additionally, and this is something Gina did bring up, is it shifts some of the costs to the states. So right now the federal government is paying 100%, but going forward, they're saying we were going to require the states to pony up some money. And in Utah, that would be $20 million. I don't know where the state is going to come up with an additional $20 million. What I think is going to happen is they'll start restricting the program.
Does this feel to you, in your opinion, like real reform, fiscal reform?
No, actually. And one of the things that's interesting about this bill is a lot of the requirements would not take effect. Some of them will take effect right away, but a lot of them won't take effect until 2029 after the next presidential election. So you can put these into place, but they won't take effect. You won't feel the pain from them until after we have another president.
Well, and I thought the goal would be to reduce spending.
Right. That's the stated goal, right?
I think that goes to your point. What you've been saying is that both sides talk about this. They talk about it, but when it comes to actually going through with that and reducing spending, nobody wants to, put something through that's going to affect their constituent, right? The objective usually is to get reelected, at least part of the objective.
That's right.
Yep. And I don't.
For most politicians.
Do you see anything in this legislation, this bill, that produces anything in terms of cuts for Social Security? I don't think they. I don't.
Well, it's 1,000 pages, and I haven't read it.
I know.
So no,
I haven't. We'll continue to look into that.
Yeah, it's part of the conversation, right?
Right.
And I think there's a real spectrum of talking about adjusting Social Security. So you have on one side people say, okay, well, what that means is you're going to cut me off. I've paid in all these years, and really the reasonable approach, I think, and a lot of people seem to embrace, but haven't actually done anything about it, is to say we're going to start phasing out. Right. So for our age, we're probably not going to be impacted. My kids are definitely going to be impacted, right? They can expect retirement age could increase, that maybe we cap out. If you're a billionaire, you don't need to collect Social Security, those types of things. But we can't seem to get our DC politicians to really get on the same page and saying it's either all or nothing. And that's really not the answer.
Well, and where things stand right now is Social Security. It's a ticking time bomb. Financially.
Right. I mean, it's estimated to run out within the decade. And then, then what happens, right? Is it going to stay solvent for our kids? Initially, when Social Security was implemented, it was really meant to be supplemental for people who had worked but did not actually have any retirement. And this is, back 80, 100 years ago, right? And so the life expectancy was around 63. And now people are retiring at 65 and living for 20 years.
Yeah. That's it? 20 years? I think people are living to be, 90. Well, I always see people turning 100 all the time. It seems like every other day.
85 seems old. So maybe they're going to live 30 more years past this retirement age, right? So it's a very different time than when it was originally implemented.
But then along the way, a lot of pensions went away.
Yeah.
And so the younger generation don't have pensions.
Right.
They they rely, or the way that their like future is set up is, it's 401k, it's savings,
right.
And it is either like Social Security. And that's it. There's no pension there.
That's right. And I would guess that many of the younger listeners don't even know what a pension is, right? So guaranteed retirement income. But again,
from your employer you stayed with for 30 or 40 years.
That's right. Again,
it
doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
The nature of our business community has changed a lot. But again, Social Security was meant to be an emergency stopgap for people who had worked their entire lives but still were the retiring poor. Right. And it's now morphed into something very different. So, yeah, it needs restructuring. I don't know that there's a lot of disagreement on that. I think the disagreement is, how do we do that? And how do we do that in a way that, is effective but causes less pain?
I want the news stories to really capture the environment that the story took place in.
Midday, all new from noon to 3.
I really want to take you to that spot where the community is really making an improvement in their neighborhood through a cleanup project, where the Cross Guard is helping those children cross the street.
Midday.
Those are the stories that really have an impact on you.
Midday with Maria Chaleos. Listen between noon and 3 on KSL News Radio.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. It is time for our annual spring clearance sale at Arctic Spas. Tons of hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, saunas, and cold tubs, all on sale at up to $7,500 off. Yes, up to $7,500 off. Just in time for the summer fun to begin. Plus, we have a few models left over from last year, like an Arctic Spa Polaris, a 7-foot by 7-foot with 40 massaging jets, 2 pumps, ozone water purification, UV water purification, multicolored LED lights, and a waterfall, now discounted to $89.95. Swim spas starting out at $19,995. This brings a pool to your backyard all year long, but especially for the family fun this summer. Comfort and convenience is on sale with our automated saltwater system. Or save even more with almost new refurbished Arctic Spas from years past. Start out online at ArcticSpasUtah.com to pick out your favorite spa. Then stop by one of our 3 Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah: Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
This is Jill Schlesinger. May is Military Appreciation Month, and I know how much I appreciate the military. I married into a military family. I hear from so many members of the military, and Navy Federal Credit Union wants us to celebrate those who go above and beyond for us every day. If you're active duty, a veteran, or part of a military family, you're eligible to join. At Navy Federal Credit Union, the members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/celebrate. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
With next-level tech and safety features, Hyundai cars and SUVs give you the confidence to boldly journey wherever life takes you. Advantages include our available class-exclusive digital key and available remote start parking assist. And because we want the road ahead to be as worry-free as possible, every Hyundai also comes complete with America's Best Warranty, a 10-year or 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. It's time you took a test drive of your favorite Hyundai today, only at your Utah Hyundai dealers.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history
Sheree Warren disappeared.
are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files, Season 2, Justice for Joyce, and Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The president's budget bill has some advocates worried about the future of SNAP benefits in Utah. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
Gina Cornea is the executive director of Utahns Against Hunger, and the part of the bill she worries about the most is the shift in how SNAP benefits will be paid. It moves a portion of the funding to the states. And Cornea says Utah would have to put up nearly $20 million to keep the program going.
Cornea says right now the federal government pays 100% of the SNAP program. The bill would also change age and work requirements for those who are eligible. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration's efforts to dismantle the Department of Education.
The judge saying basically that the Trump administration can't dismantle an agency without an act of Congress. Congress created the agency so that this is yet again another, if temporary, setback for the Trump administration delivered by an individual judge in a district court case, at least for now, slowing down efforts to overhaul the federal government here in Washington.
ABC's Devin Dwyer reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 95 points. The S&P is up 12 points. And coming up, a high of 84 and a bit of breeze. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Are you looking for a fun way to get your kids outside and off their screens this spring? Try flower gardening. Starting a beautiful flower bed or easy container garden is a great hands-on way to spend quality time together while teaching kids about nature. They'll love digging in the dirt, picking out their favorite flowers, and watching them bloom, all while making real, lasting memories. Plus, gardening is a great way to slow down, soak up some sunshine, and enjoy the fresh air as a family. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with care for 4 generations right here in Utah. Whether you have a big sunny backyard or just a small shady front porch, our colorful locally grown flowers make it easy to add beauty to your home. So this spring, start with a new family tradition, one that grows with your kids. Get inspiration at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens on Instagram or find a garden center near you at ogg.com. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Here's Ricky Meese.
Graduation delays again this afternoon. Southbound Highway 89 trying to get to the I-84 junction in Weber County, and an accident northbound Redwood Road at about 1700 south. You'll see that it is blocking traffic at the intersection. It might be a spot you want to avoid and use an alternate route. When you take UTA, you can do just about anything while you ride. You won't even notice all the traffic you're missing. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy skies today with some breeze. We hit a high of 84 with temps decreasing back to the 70s over the weekend, but back up to 85 on Memorial Day. Right now it is 73 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, when I rolled out of bed this morning and I was like, oh, yay, I get to do the show with Holly Richardson today. I can't wait. I drove to work. I thought, you know what? There's nothing I want to talk more about than Pioneer Park. Like, I hope that producer Caitlin comes in and tells me that Salt Lake City wants to make the farmers market at Pioneer Park year-round, so I can talk once again about the park that in the history of parks, in all of my years working as a journalist in the Salt Lake City area, which is, more than 30 years, has never received more love and attention and maybe even millions than Pioneer Park. But here we are again. My wish came true. We're going to talk about Pioneer Park.
The poor park.
So, it seems like they tried everything to turn this park's life around.
Yeah, it's been decades. It has. A quick Google search showed me it's been decades.
She said, I was talking to her about this, my history with Pioneer Park as a news reporter. And so Holly Googled woes of Pioneer Park, and you said you came up with the story of KSL 5 TV did in 2007. And I said, I was thinking, maybe I was the reporter on that. But you said, no, it was John Hollenhorst.
Right. And you went back to
90s.
when Mayor Didi Corradini was in office and trying to revitalize the park.
Yeah, she did. I was there for a news conference, I believe, that she did. The late Mayor Didi Corradini, and they were at the time removing, there was like a train engine there, and they were having some problems with that because people were sleeping in and stuff like that. So I think they were going to remove it. I think that's why the news conference was being held, and they did. I don't think it's there anymore. And I remember thinking at the time was like, that's the solution. But maybe the solution is this year-round farmers market that they're talking about at Pioneer Park. Right. Farmers market there is huge. It started in '92. I went to it for years. I loved it, but now they want to make it year-round. What are your thoughts on that?
It's one of the you've got to keep trying different things, I guess, right? So it's one of the most popular in the nation, one of the largest, I guess. It's been over 250,000 visitors just last summer alone. And people from 16 of our 29 counties come, and sell their wares.
Yeah, it does produce.
Right? There's a lot. There's a really big draw,
yeah.
right? A really big draw. So to make it year round, they would, of course, have a building. But there's additional renovations that they want to do to that, including a pickleball courts, which I do not play, but it's very popular, I know.
Yeah.
A new playground, a new pavilion, a new ranger station, a new area for dogs to run around. So there, it's part of like an overall project. But this is something I did not know, but there's a winter farmers market over at Gateway, and it would shift from there over to Pioneer Park if this moves forward. It still has to go through all kinds of approvals.
I think that's been one of the problems with Pioneer Park in general, which was for many years, from my experience as a news reporter, could be an open air market for drugs and selling drugs and buying drugs.
Right.
How do I know this? I actually, as a journalist, stood there and watched this happen while I was reporting news stories.
Yeah.
It was more common than it ever should have been. It was difficult for families to use the park because it just it was a drug haven for folks that were selling drugs and buying drugs. You didn't want your child in that park.
Right.
I remember at one point standing there ready to do a live shot when I was working at on the TV side of the house here. And I saw, obviously, out-of-town visitors. It was pretty obvious they were out-of-town visitors, and they were going to cut diagonally through the park. And I think the destination, because they had a couple kids with them, where they were going to cut over to, there was like a swing set over there. And I was like, no, don't do it. They have tried over and over and over to fix what ails Pioneer Park. And maybe a year-round farmer's market will do it. I like the fact that you come here with hope that, you got to try, you got to keep trying over and over and over again. And I don't think the removal of the train, that wasn't the answer. When you bring, however, more people to an area, whether it's for a farmer's market, it's, for pickleball, it's a dog park, that does tend to reduce crime, because when there's activity in an area and it's positive activity and people are out there, families are out there, and you said there's going to be a ranger station there. Is that may be for something, a place for a cop shop to be set up. So if there are any problems, they're right there. I don't know how that's going to work, but maybe that's kind of part of the idea here. Then we start to see progress with Pioneer Park. But there are times over the years that I've wondered out loud, and also there was talk. There was, what do we do with that? Do we just leave it a park, or do we put a structure on it?
Right. I think one of the things, and I don't know that this is part of the consideration, but we're having a whole downtown revitalization, right? We've got the entertainment district, the sports district, all that stuff that's happening, and this is, I think this could be an opportunity where maybe that can start to spill over even into Pioneer Park. So Dee Brewer, who's the executive director of the Downtown Alliance, said, look, he knows that Pioneer Park has endured a bad reputation, he said, for decades. But he said, we also know we can change the chemistry of the park. We do it every summer, and we've done it for 34 years with the downtown's farmers market. But so not only would it bring people, but it's an income generator, right? He $11 million in annual direct-to-consumer sales. That's right. That's, for Utah, that's not pocket change.
Yeah. I also look at our local communities, like where I live out in South Jordan. I have a farmer's market, not the size of what they do at Pioneer Park.
Right.
But I have a farmer's market that's pretty much walking distance from my home. It's there every Saturday in the summer.
Right.
So that takes business away, at least my business away, because I'm less likely to drive downtown, even though I do appreciate and love. Like, they had the best flowers at the farmer's market downtown. I used to save up my money, my pennies.
Your pennies.
And my nickels. I did. And I would spoil myself once in a while with their flowers are gorgeous.
Right.
But we now have that there.
Right.
Then I've since learned that not too far from the farmer's market that I walk to is another farmer's market in South Jordan. And then there's the farmer's market that's pretty popular, Wheeler Farm in the Murray area.
And I'm in Utah County, and we have multiple down there
it's
around
kind of becoming
Thanksgiving
diluted.
Point. Yeah, to some degree, right? But again, I probably wouldn't drive up to the Pioneer Park Farmers Market, although I might this summer. But I'm going to drive a few minutes across town that's to the one that's close to me.
But I think for me, it would be instead of coming downtown to the farmers market as frequently as I did back in the 90s when it was new, it was novel. We didn't have the farmers market out. I was living, I believe, in Murray at the time, maybe Midvale. I moved around a lot because, apartment rents, So wherever I was, I would make it a point to drive downtown.
Yeah.
Now, I need a reason.
Right.
I need a reason to come back downtown. And so it needs to be the farmers market, and then what? And then what else?
This may be the answer to that, right? So whether you're coming down to play pickleball, they're going to have outside seating and potentially like a cafe or places for people to congregate besides the farmers market as well. Yeah.
Let's take live calls. I've loved listening to you take live calls today, Holly. So
thanks for everybody for humoring me.
No, it's great. I think this is awesome. Holly Richardson in today as a co-host. Her and Greg Skordas going to be hosting our all-new show here on KSL News Radio. My last day on the air as I go into retirement is June 6th. Holly and Greg taking over the microphone starting at 9 a.m., 9 to noon, Monday through Fridays, right here on KSL News Radio with the all-new Inside Sources. So why not take phone calls? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's ask our listeners, 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. I mean, do you think all year-round farmers market in Pioneer Park is part of the solution to solving the issues that have plagued Pioneer Park? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. WSP is a global leader in professional services, combining engineering, advisory, and science-based expertise to create positive change. They envision future possibilities and bring them to life through technical expertise and innovative solutions. Senior Vice President Shannon Bond joins us with more.
This year marks 4 decades of transformative WSP collaborations with Utah clients, partners, and community members. WSP is committed to helping deliver projects that improve critical infrastructure and sustain long-term regional growth, from highways, airports, and public transit to power, energy, and buildings. I'm proud to say WSP earned Engineering News Record's Intermountain Region #1 position on its 2024 Top Design Firms ranking. This recognition drives us to continue supporting Utah's biggest infrastructure initiatives. Through several acquisitions in recent years, we now have about 200 Utah-based professionals offering advanced multidisciplinary solutions for projects like UTA's new headquarters, the world-leading ACES Green hydrogen storage facility, and 2034 Winter Olympics coming back to our city. WSP is honored to be part of incredible opportunities and always seeks top talent to help bring community-shaping projects to life.
WSP is all about shaping communities with innovative engineering, design, and consulting. They're working on projects that make a real impact on the world around us. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
Repair or replace your roof now during S&S Roofing's huge spring sale. 12 months interest-free financing. The highest value roofing job in Utah. Dial pound 250 and then say S&S Roofing.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're going to take your live calls, 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Holly Richardson and I talking about Pioneer Park and the idea of expanding the farmers market that it's so popular in Pioneer Park. It launched in 1992. I remember when it launched. I was so excited about it. I went often, and expanding it to go year-round. You know, Pioneer Park has just been that park that has had a lot of hope. I think Pioneer Park has been given more hopes and prayers than any other park that I can think of in this valley over the last 30-plus years that I've lived here. And now this is one of the ideas that the city is putting into motion is to expand the farmers market year round, Hall.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that can be really appealing. And I was thinking about your comment earlier about how we've seen farmers markets kind of expand across the state. And I'm wondering if it's because we've gotten away from gardening ourselves, right? I used to do a lot of gardening when my kids were younger. It was one of the summer chores that they had, right? You got to come weed the garden before you can go play in the summer. And I don't do that much anymore. And I know a lot of people, maybe they grow tomatoes and zucchini, but maybe that's it, right? So that could be
You're
the
looking
appeal.
into my soul.
Right?
When I started cutting back on my gardening, because it is so time consuming, and then your kids grow up and they start playing baseball and softball on the weekends. I went to container gardening.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, okay, we're just doing tomatoes and zucchini.
Right.
801-575-TALK is a farmer's market year round. The solution for downtown's Pioneer Park. 801-575-TALK. We're getting a text. I want to read this text. Yes, this person says it. 57500. That's our text line. Year-round farmers market sounds like fun, I think. They said it would be fun during the Christmas season and other holidays.
Oh, my goodness. That would be awesome. Really. That could be a lot of fun.
Valentine's.
All of the things, right? So I've got some friends that do a tree for the season. It's a Christmas tree, but then it's a Valentine's tree and an Easter tree and a 4th of July tree, right?
Yeah, bring the holiday spirit year round, no matter what holiday it is.
Right, lots of fun stuff.
This is interesting because it sounded like from what you were saying earlier from the article that we're reading here off of KSLTV.com that it would take the farmers market that's at the Gateway in the wintertime and then shift it to the Pioneer Park area.
Right.
Well, this listener says, if the farmers market is moved from Gateway to Pioneer Park, what happens to the Gateway? Are we just trading some problems?
Right, and I don't have an answer to that question.
Either.
There's certainly been concerns about what has happened to Gateway over the years, yeah.
Well, and, I walk to City Creek quite often, but I miss the vibe of the Gateway and where it was. Remember when they got it done in time for the Olympics.
Right.
We had the fountain. I remember, I think NBC News, the Today Show was set up over the Gateway, if I'm remembering that. And I went live in the Gateway during the Olympics. There was shops, there was dining, there was the Dick's Sporting Goods. It was like the size of just like this monstrous sporting goods store. Like now we have the Shields down in Sandy that kind of rivals that. But at the time I was like, oh, this is huge. All of that, a lot of that has dried up and I miss that. And I hope we can get back to a point where we can support these two malls that are so close together in infusing. Now they have some restaurants there that are fun to go to over the Gateway,
and things change
shops.
too, right? I mean, over the last 20-something years, shopper habits have changed. So malls across the country have lost buyers because people have shifted to online stores. Anyway, so just some different things to think about. But this is underway, right, where it has to go in front of the Salt Lake County Council, but they're really talking about doing a project like this.
Hi, Linda. Are you for or against this idea?
Well, I'm not totally against it, but it seems like we're just spinning our wheels on something that we know is not working. So I was kind of thinking that's kind of prime real estate. Part of the problem in my mind is that the amount of homeless shelters, they just congregate there anyways. So in my mind, it's not really going to change because you'll have that same issue and direct people congregating it there. What if they switched the farmers market summer to Gateway and reuse that park for maybe some nice housing or some more subsidized housing, something like that, where you utilize that space where we don't have very much land anymore, and then you can revitalize Gateway with the year-round farmers market and maybe make it smaller, like what you guys were saying before. It's hard because there's farmers markets now in every community, so I don't think you need a big farmers market downtown anymore because you just need a little community one for the community of downtown.
Right down the street. Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We should see if the county council will listen to us.
Lawrence, you live in Salt Lake area?
Yeah, I live in the Salt Lake Valley.
What do you think about this?
if you're doing it, the year-round thing is, sorry, give me a second to collect my thoughts. The year-round farmers market is not a bad idea. How you do it will determine how it will affect the park, either part of the year or all the year. If you do it in a building because of the cold weather part of the month, the rest of the park will still probably be inhabited by other people. If you manage to have an open air so that it takes up the whole park, essentially, then it will make a difference. But no matter what you do, if it's to get rid of the homeless and the drug dealing and stuff, they'll still be nearby.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that they're talking about is not doing open air during the winter months, right? It would be inside of a building, so that definitely is a consideration.
Want to take one more phone call? Hi, David.
Hi, how you doing?
It sounds like you're also concerned that the park can be occupied by people experiencing homelessness at times, and it has over the years. That has been a situation that the park it's experienced it. I've seen that. I've also seen additionally drug deals going on in that park over the years, and the police department, the city, they've worked to clean it up. But you sound like you're maybe still concerned about some of that.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea per se, except that indeed the gateway is already thriving and pretty great for the winter. It's honestly, Pioneer Park is not the worst area right now. It's not, how it used to be. I don't know if y'all have been to the Jordan River Parkway, especially along North Temple. And there's just so many pockets of
that's an ongoing issue.
Valley. Yeah, and really, I think so. It's just shifting the chairs on the deck of the Titanic.
On the Titanic, I mentioned that earlier.
And I think the real solution is something like I think everybody's finally coming to consensus that Winder was right. We need an open air shelter. We need sanctioned camping that is basically an open air.
Former Salt Lake County Sheriff Jim Winder, I actually talked to him about that many years ago. And thank you so much for your call. He talked about that. I also had gone to Seattle and Portland to examine the homeless issue there, and they were big into tiny home villages for people experiencing homelessness and encampments, tent areas that were, from what I saw, pretty highly controlled. There was some discussion about building that at one point. I know they're starting to do more and more of that, or at least look at that. But I think that's what you're referring to. And until we can deal with that, it's hard
a
to
complex
figure it out.
problem, right? But this is one interesting approach, right, to do year round.
Yeah. Well, bring more people downtown.
Yeah, 250,000 visitors just in the summer months. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Middays with Maria straight ahead. She's got all your day's news from noon to 3 every weekday right here on KSL News Radio. And Holly, I'm so looking forward to the launch of your show on June 9th. Thanks so much for co-hosting with me today. It's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next chapter with you and Greg Skordas.
Looking for reliable home services you can actually count on? I've got just the team for you. Mountain Home Services. They've been serving Utah since 1954 with honest, upfront pricing and zero hidden fees. Plus, they back every job with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. With summer heating up, now's the time to get your AC in shape. Mountain Home Services delivers fast, expert air conditioning service to keep your home cool and comfortable. And don't forget, they also handle electrical and plumbing work with the same trusted care. And here's the best part. KSL listeners get exclusive limited-time specials, but you have to call and ask. These deals won't last, so don't miss your chance to save. Call 801-543-2222 today and tell them KSL sent you. That's 801-543-2222 or visit mountainhomeservices.com. Get the service you need and the deal you deserve.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix